Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei Became Sirzech's Pawn. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Are you Rius? Issei tilted his head curiously while staring at a taller crimson-haired woman in front of him. The woman chuckled at the misunderstanding. No, but you were close. I'll give you another chance. You can't be her mother. Amused, Serzex questioned, what do you mean? Why couldn't I be? You're too young and appealing. Issei watched as Serzex began blushing at the compliment. I'm going to guess. Older sister. Smiling and still blushing, Serzex nodded. Yes, I was just visiting her for family visits. Issei nodded before turning around. Well, have a good time. I heard that Rius is a very intelligent and sophisticated woman. I'm guessing you're the same, if not better. Enjoying the interaction, Serzex asked, Wait, where are you going? Oh, I was just going to class. Serzex Lucifer, one of the mightiest women in the world, had a single problem in her life: interactions. She rarely received many, as her only consistent conversation partner was her best friend and maid, Greory. This short interaction made her want to continue speaking with Issei. During her family visit, not many had wanted to talk with her, being too engrossed in their own issues. Wait, could we talk a little bit more while we walk to your class? Rius's class is also in that direction. Issei smiled and nodded. Sure, come on. As they walked, Serzex noticed Issei receiving some disapproving looks from other students, particularly female students, and she was confused. Why do these women stare at you like that? Freezing slightly, Issei felt nervous. This was a woman whose beauty surpassed even Rius in his eyes, and he didn't want to lose her respect. People see me as a pervert for the way I act around here. Serzex looked astonished. That's not how people should be treated. Everyone has their preferences. You're just more open about who you like. Isn't it human nature to be a little perverted? Yeah, but people don't really see it that way. Seeing Issei's somber expression, Serzex decided to lighten the mood. What else do you do during your time here besides studying? Serzex was being generous in saying Issei did well in classes. He was just barely above average. He smiled at the compliment. I sometimes doodle during lectures. Isn't that? But if you ever sit through a lecture here, you'll understand. Serzex chuckled. Or is it because you just don't want to behave? Hey, I'll have you know I'm very on top of my game during class. I may fall asleep here and there. That's what I expect from most students. Occasionally, even Rius falls asleep during class. It's inevitable for many people. I fear for my future. How will I handle a 9 to 5 when I can't even stay awake during a single lecture? Serzex smiled with amusement, enjoying the conversation. They turned the corner, and the first thing they saw was a large classroom with Rius's class on one side and Issei's class on the other. Serzex smiled, knowing she would be able to see both Rius and Issei. Would you look at that, we both have the same destination. Oh no, I forgot today was presentation day. I spent all night thinking I had nothing to do. Issei panicked, checked the time, and rushed into the classroom to come up with something for his project. Serzex couldn't help but laugh at Issei's unfortunate situation. Watching him panic and establish his demeanor was hilarious to her. After a little while, the teacher began reviewing the students' projects in Issei's class. Serzex noticed this while watching Rius learn about trigonometry. She glanced around until she found Issei, covering her mouth in shock to stifle her laughter. Greory, her best friend, noticed and shared the same reaction. While everyone else in Issei's class had made small catapults with sticks and spoons, Issei had created his with just 2 RBB bands. What amused Serzex and Greory was Issei's confident demeanor, which crumbled upon seeing the teacher's disapproval. Serzex didn't want to seem mean for laughing, but it was just too funny. After classes were dismissed, she ran after Issei, eager to continue their conversation. Issei. The brunette turned around. Rius's big sister. Wait, I forgot to tell you my name. Serzex blushed in embarrassment. My name is Serzex. Oh, nice to meet ya. Serzex was astonished that Issei remained positive even after his project mishap. Are you okay even after that incident? Issei knew that Serzex was referring to his project failure. I'm fine. Failing a single project won't absolutely kill me. I'll just have to make sure to work extra HRD on the next one. Are you sure? Yeah. With that, the two fell into silence before Serzex shyly pulled out her phone. With the latest model of the most expensive phone available, she handed it to Issei and asked, "Could I have your number, please?" Issei's mind momentarily went blank. One of the most appealing women he had ever seen was asking for his phone number. What a day this was. Maybe failing the project was balanced out by this opportunity. Sure, but why do you want my number? I wanted to have more people to interact with. If you haven't noticed, I only have a couple of people I speak with. Most of them are from my family. Issei nodded and added his number. Here you go, now we're going to become the best of friends. Smiling, Serzex gently hugged him. I can't wait for us to become the best of friends. As they separated, Issei patted Serzex's head and walked away. Can't wait to text you. Blushing from the head pat, Serzex held her phone tightly while staring at Issei's contact information. I can't wait to tell Grafia about this. Did you know Grafia gave me 5 pieces of pancakes to eat? I can't believe she would be so generous. Serzex was on her bed, face on the pillow, with her phone in front of her. Her bed was larger than most middle-class bedrooms. She noticed Issei typing to her and squealed in excitement. It had been a couple of months since they last spoke, and now they were keeping in touch every day. Someone must be in a happy mood. I wonder what has been happening to make her so happy. I'm so happy. Usually, she would give me only a couple of pancakes and some orange juice. Now, she said I can have double. So, I may have missed school again. Furrowing her brows, Serzex began typing angrily. That's the 3rd time this month. How many times have I told you to stop playing video games all night long? Hey, I can't help it. Sighing in disappointment, Serzex couldn't help but chuckle, thinking of Issei's clumsiness. It's okay, what will you do now? I don't know. Continue talking with you if you want. Of course, I would love to. Feeling bold, Serzex clicked the call button and waited for Issei to pick up. He answered, looking as if he had just woken up. Hey Serzex. I'm surprised you decided to call me. What's up? I just wanted to call you. She didn't know what else to say. She had paperwork to finish, but she could push that aside for now. We just have to stay quiet or my mom will find out that I miss school and take my phone away. You're nearly an adult and you're afraid of your mother. Aren't you afraid of your mother? Touché. Serzex, do you want to see that new movie at the theater? Serzex tilted her head in confusion. There's a new movie coming out. Yeah, there are multiple movies coming out. Her eyes widened as she pouted. Why didn't Rius tell me about this? I wanted to know beforehand. Issei smiled warmly. There's a new comedy/romance movie coming out. It's a sequel to another amazing movie. Do you want to watch it? My other friends are busy, so I thought to ask you. Serzex remained silent, causing Issei to panic. It's okay if you don't want to watch it with me. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. I think I'll have to get going. Wait, I didn't say I wouldn't want to watch it with you. I would love to. When is it? It's tomorrow right after my school. I'll pick you up. We're going to crush this movie. I will not cry. It's a comedy/romance movie. Still, I won't cry if there are sad parts. Issei knew those were going to be Serzex's last words before something unexpected happened. Oh no. My mom is coming. I need to hide. I'll call you later. Ending the call, Serzex squealed in excitement, knowing she would see Issei in person again. Come on. Paperwork has to be done. Grafia, could you help me please? Grafia burst through the door to see Serzex with her feet in the air, swinging them like an excited schoolgirl. What got you so excited? Issei. What? Did he confess? You do know you have to wait another year before it becomes legal somewhat. Blushing from embarrassment, Serzex pouted. Wait, I forgot he's a human. That's beside the point. He invited me to watch the newest movie. Can you believe it? Greory sighed in relief, realizing it was just a friendly invitation. It was about time he invited you somewhere. I just have to make sure you don't step over the line. Devil rules and human rules are still very different. Skipping to the afternoon after school, Issei was seen with a frown on his face. Waiting in front of the school with a couple of bruises, Issei was caught again by the kendo club. This time, he didn't even see anything. They blamed him simply because they found him around the area. He tried to protest, but they were relentless. As a appealing red sports car pulled up in front of the school, everyone noticed the window rolling down to reveal Sirzech, wearing sunglasses and a large smile. However, her expression quickly shifted to concern when she saw Issei's bruises and the hurt on his face. Getting out of the car, Sirzech rushed towards him. Issei, what happened? Forcing a smile, Issei replied, I tripped and fell down the stairs. It hurt a little bit, but are you ready to go? Sirzech could easily see he was faking the smile. She didn't want to push him too much, deciding to let it go for now, but she would investigate later. Noticing the stares from others, Sirzech grabbed Issei by the arm and led him to her car. So, do you know where you're going? She asked. How long until we have to watch the movie? Issei checked his phone. In 3 hours, we're going to explore the entire town. Ready? What? Sirzech slammed her foot onto the gas pedal, and Issei gripped the seat as they accelerated rapidly. He closed his eyes as Sirzech shouted in excitement, Come on, let's roll out. Slow down. I'm going to be scared, he exclaimed. Sirzech, with one hand on the steering wheel, used her magic to ensure they went undetected by nearby police. I bought this car, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. Sitting down at the theater, Issei had popcorn in his lap, ready to eat, until Sirzech playfully shoved her hand into the bag and took a large handful, stuffing it into her mouth. Issei stared at her. That was like half of the bag. Sirzech laughed at his reaction, but then began to choke on the popcorn. Quick to act, Issei patted her back, helping her recover. Thanks for that. It would have been a sad way to go, she said, trying to catch her breath. You wasted all that popcorn, Issei said, slumping in his seat, mock tears in his eyes. I spent money on that. Sirzech smiled warmly at his sensitivity. The movie is starting. As the film progressed, Issei began to feel tired. The bruises and the day's events caught up with him, and he eventually rested his head on Sirzech's shoulder. Noticing this, she carefully moved his head to her lap and began to caress it, wanting him to be comfortable, especially after seeing his condition earlier. Taking the opportunity, she checked his bruises and frowned deeply, realizing they were from physical harm. Sirzech was determined to put an end to this abuse when she had the chance. For now, she wanted to enjoy this moment with Issei. Blushing at his peaceful expression, she turned her attention back to the movie. As the film reached its emotional climax, tears welled in her eyes at the tragic ending. She then heard soft snores from Issei and giggled, thinking about how peaceful he looked. All right, how do I wake him up? She wondered. Gently slapping his arm, Issei groaned but continued sleeping. But I don't want to wake him up. He looks so peaceful, she thought, glancing around as the audience began to leave. Sirzech felt desperate. She didn't want to disturb Issei but also didn't want to get in trouble with the theater staff. Deciding to carry him out, she applied some magic to go unnoticed. Just as she reached the entrance, she was stopped by Greory, who wore a stern expression. What are you doing with that boy? Greory asked. Issei fell asleep during the movie, and I'm just carrying him to my car, Sirzech explained. Greory face-bombed. Do you realize how that sounds? What do you mean? I'm just being a helpful friend. Think about it. You're a mature woman carrying a boy who looks to be in high school. From an outsider's perspective, it might look suspicious. Sirzech blinked a few times, then looked down at Issei. Oh, I see what you mean. Wait, Issei still thinks I'm in university. Seeing how naive he is from how you two converse on the phone, I wouldn't doubt it. Walking over to Sirzech, she rubbed Issei's head. It's time to wake him up. Using a bit of magic, she sent a quick burst of cold air onto Issei, disrupting his sleep. Also, I suggest putting him down. Quickly, Serzex placed Issei on the ground and watched as he began processing where he was. This isn't the movie. Did I fall asleep in the middle of the hallway again? Serzex knelt down and poked his nose. You decided to skip the entire movie. How sleepy were you? I wasn't sleepy, Issei replied, but Serzex looked at him with a doubtful expression. Okay, maybe I was playing a little bit of Dark Souls 2 last night. I was stuck fighting Sir Elan and his long walk back to his boss fight. Who thought it was a good idea to have powerful enemies and a long walk to their arena? Issei, how many times have I told you not to play video games all night long? Greory scolded him, and he was surprised to see her. Greory, this is a surprise. I never thought I would see you here. Greory smirked before quickly realizing what Issei was doing. You're not changing the subject. I should let your mother know that her son is ruining his health by staying up all night playing those games. Not my mother. Issei looked at Greory with pleading eyes. Please don't do that. I haven't noticed, but you look far more appealing in person than on camera. Trying to flatter her, Greory simply chuckled. If you want to flatter me, tell me things I don't hear every day. However, I won't tell your mother. If I hear this again, I will make sure you are grounded. Sirzech, feeling ignored, pouted and slightly squeezed Issei's hand. Her squeeze turned into immense pain for Issei. What was that for? Quickly changing the subject, Sirzech asked, Do I look more appealing in person? Yeah, haven't you already asked me this multiple times during our conversations online? Smiling, Sirzech began walking with Issei, with Greory right behind. Well, it's getting dark outside. I guess I will be walking back home. Who said you're walking back home? Sirzech continued walking toward her car. I will drop you off at your home. Plus, I want to make sure you don't get into any trouble. Shrugging his shoulders, Issei thought getting dropped off meant less work for him. He walked toward the nice sports car and sat in the back. Greory looked at Sirzech and asked, What's wrong? You seem less cheerful. Greory, tell Rius that I need her to observe how Issei is treated in school. Sirzech's tone shifted from cheerful to authoritative. What's wrong? Something must have happened for you to ask that. Sirzech knew Greory was someone she could trust with her concerns. Issei had bruises and cuts on his body. You should have seen the sadness on his face before he showed up with me to the movies. It was disheartening. Don't let him know we're doing this and don't ask him why he has them. I already did, and he doesn't want to share. Greory, hearing the pain Issei was going through, nodded. I will let Rius know soon. Now, let's go back to the car. The boy is waiting to go home. His mother must be getting worried about his absence. You want to go on a date with me? Yuma blushed as she looked at Issei. Yes. Issei squinted, his mind racing. I don't even know you. I don't know where you live or where you're from. Why are you even talking to me? Didn't you just see the group of girls from before screaming at me? What? Thinking more clearly, Issei continued, Most women, after hearing what I usually do, would stay away from me. If you don't know who I am, then when you do, what's going to stop you from doing the same? Wait, I do know who you are. Then, who am I? A very sophisticated individual. Issei looked at her with a blank expression. Are you serious? You don't even know who I am. That's all I need to say. If you wanted to hang out, it would have worked. Wait, we can hang out. I promise. I'm sorry, but I have someone who is very impatient with. Oh, there she is texting me. Sirzech's text dinged on his phone. Checking it, he was shocked to see her politely asking him to show up. Usually, she would just text him with a bunch of angry emojis. While Issei was looking at his phone, Yuma shot him a nasty glare, her expression one of disgust as if he were beneath her. Glancing back at her, Issei simply turned around and walked away. Yuma was left speechless, unable to comprehend that she had actually been rejected. This wasn't possible in her eyes. Issei was known to be the largest pervert who dreamed of having a girlfriend, yet here he was, throwing away a chance he might never get again without a hint of regret. She wanted to shift into her fallen angel form and confront Issei right then and there, but she sensed that without a plan or a protective barrier, the devils nearby would detect her and eliminate her along with her group. Taking precautions, Rainier backed away and vanished from sight. Issei glanced behind him and noticed that Yuma was gone. After blinking a couple of times, he shrugged and continued on his way, only to find Sirzech in her sports car right in front of him. Issei, is this where you have been all this time? How did you find me? Do we have our locations on at all times? Issei asked, opening his phone to check for any location sharing apps. Sirzech chuckled nervously, I don't really know how I found you. I decided to take a little detour from our original pickup place. In reality, Sirzech had used her incredible supernatural speed to traverse the entire city before locating Issei and parking a little further away to remain undetected. Alright, ready to watch Avatar, The Last Transformer. What are we watching? Is this some kind of bootleg? I found it online and thought it would be fun to watch at a free theater. Issei looked bewildered. There's no way we're watching a movie that combines two already popular franchises. Come on, it can't be that bad. I watched the trailer and only noticed a couple of issues, but they won't ruin our fun. Sirzech patted the passenger seat for Issei. Sighing, she knew bootleg movies rarely lived up to expectations, especially when they confused the audience. You know what, I'm not even going to say anything else. As Issei settled into the car, he braced himself for what was about to happen. Suddenly, the car's wheels began to spin out. Also, I noticed you were talking to another woman. Sirzech's tone shifted slightly, becoming more assertive. Who is she? A classmate or someone bothering you? Honestly, I don't even know. She asked me out on a date. Sirzech frowned. What do you mean? Did you accept her offer? No, it felt so staged, like she lost a bet with her friends to ask me out. I didn't even know her. Sirzech sighed in relief, then accidentally slammed her foot on the gas pedal, causing a jolt. Oh no. Issei widened his eyes and looked at her. It was nice knowing you, Sirzech. He closed his eyes, bracing for the worst. Laughing at his fear, Sirzech discreetly used her magic and accelerated the car. All that could be heard were the excited screams of a woman and the terrified cries of a man. I'm going to die. Calm down, this is the thrill that youth needs. After the movie, Issei and Sirzech exited the small theater. Sirzech looked defeated while Issei maintained a neutral expression. He had anticipated the movie would be terrible, so he wasn't disappointed by the awkward characters and chaotic scenes. Sirzech, however, was utterly disheartened. Let's go somewhere else next time. Nah, let's watch another movie here. Issei enjoyed watching Sirzech pout as she started up her car. I will not come here again. Looks like I'll have to invite Greory. Could you tell her if? Never mind, I will come. Sirzech didn't want Greory to take away her time with Issei. He was one of the few people she felt comfortable talking to, alongside Ajuka and her family. It had been 3 months since they met, and Issei had quickly become one of her closest friends. Hey Issei, have you ever loved something so much that you dream of having it every single night, wondering what you're missing to obtain it? Yeah. I dreamt of being like Goku, and then my alarm clock woke me up. Do you know how much I want to scream and power up before taking on challenges? Chuckling at his response, Sirzech shook her head. Regular things, not unrealistic ones. Fine, I did want to be loved by someone. I dreamt of being loved so much that I sleep dreaming of having a girlfriend. Issei longed for the affection a woman could give him. Sirzech slowed the car and widened her eyes, realizing that his dream mirrored her own. She wanted to be loved by a man. I want to feel the personal connection with my spouse and know that I can speak with them about anything that I want. I dream of being loved every night. Sirzech had grown a reputation in the underworld as a formidable devil during the Devil Civil War, and combined with her being the most powerful devil to date, she was feared by all. Her neutral expression would send shivers down anyone who came into contact with her. One was feared by women for being inappropriate. One was feared by men for being a monster. Well, life is unpredictable. One day, maybe that woman of my dreams will show up in front of my house. Sirzech smiled warmly. I hope it does happen. The moment was interrupted when a car started beeping behind them. The atmosphere shifted, and Sirzech glared into her car's mirror before slamming her foot on the gas pedal. Time for round 2. Not again. Serzex was sitting on her bed, reflecting on her day. Okay girl, today has been a huge success. First, I was able to watch a movie with Issei. Second, I realized that his dreams are similar to mine. Finally, I was able to steer the steering wheel and make Issei land on top of me. It was so funny seeing him get flustered. Greory opened the door to find Serzex hugging her pillow while staring at her phone. Issei really has you thinking about him constantly. Serzex jumped in surprise before glaring at Greory. You should have told me you were entering the room. And not scare you. Yeah, no thanks. Anyways, I wanted to let you know, if Issei ever asks to visit your home, tell him that you live very far and that your house is being renovated. What? I understand that I shouldn't allow him to enter my house since the only way to enter from the human world is to teleport here. However, telling him some ridiculous lies would be dishonest. Greory sat next to Serzex and explained, think of it this way. If you say you're from out of town, he will feel bad and think more highly of you for showing up to hang out with him knowing how far you live. If you also say your house is being renovated, he wouldn't want to show up and disturb anything. Serzex nodded, a sinister grin forming on her face. Maybe lying is a good thing. If he asks for your age, just tell him you're 20. This reminded Serzex of a concern that had been growing. She was known to be one of the most powerful beings in the world, with countless enemies who would do anything to destroy her. If Issei was seen with her, there was no telling what her enemies would do to gain an advantage. Serzex didn't care as much about herself but rather about Issei's safety. He was just a simple, innocent, and clumsy boy who didn't deserve harm. Greory, do you have any small teleportation circles that could transport me to Issei whenever he needs my help? Greory looked confused but quickly connected the dots and nodded. Teleporting to Serzex's office, she grabbed a couple of small cards that would fit nicely in Issei's pocket and returned. Got them here. Great. Whenever he feels the need or wants to see me, this will light up and I will show up. This is perfect. Serzex jumped in celebration, relieved that she could secure Issei's safety. Now here's the real problem. How will you give them to him? Also, don't use all of them. Serzex smirked before teleporting away. Greory stood where Serzex had been, contemplating where she had gone. Hold up, there's no way Serzex would get that desperate. She dismissed the thought of Serzex breaking into Issei's room, but the smirk suggested otherwise. Serzex may have been a mature young woman, but her mind often turned her into a playful adult. Serzex soon returned with a few flyers in hand. All right, problem solved. What did you do? I teleported into Issei's room while he was asleep and placed a bunch of these flyers in his backpack. I even put a couple in the back of his phone case. I have to be sure he's totally fine if he ever needs help. Not creepy at all. Serzex, we need to discuss some boundaries regarding your connection with Issei. What did I do wrong? I'm just taking precautions to ensure Issei doesn't get hurt. Not realizing what you did wrong is another issue. Time for Professor Greory to teach you some common sense. Waking up and yawning, Issei got ready to leave his home. Following his daily routine, he walked toward school, expecting a very uneventful day. I wonder, should I get a donut, or should I save my money? Entertainment or being smart? He sighed and checked the time on his phone. What is this weird paper on my phone? Stuck on his phone was a small card with a teleportation circle unique to Serzex. I don't even know how this got here. However, his thoughts were interrupted as the space surrounding him began distorting. What is happening? Being frozen and looking around, Issei began panicking before turning his head to some footsteps approaching. Finally, it took a while, but I have singled you out of humanity. This is the perfect time to end you. Yuma. What are you talking about? Slowly, Yuma's warm grin transformed into a wicked smile as she revealed her true form. Spreading her black wings into the air while floating in the sky, she laughed at Issei's confusion. Disrespecting me the other day angered me to the point where I just want nothing more than to see you gone. What better way to help my feelings than to end your life myself? Forming a light spear, Rainier began to draw her hand back to strike at Issei's heart. Wait, what are you? Issei needed a way to defuse the situation. His confusion was replaced with fear as he looked around for something to help him, but found nothing in the alternate dimension. Simple, I'm just better than you. Did I ever tell you that you look appealing? This beauty is something to die for. Rainier threw the spear at speeds Issei couldn't react to. Feeling immense pain in his midsection, Issei looked down to see a gaping wound. Coughing BLD, he dropped to the ground and turned his attention to Rainier, who was laughing hysterically. Such a pathetic way to die. A stomach missing and a heart stolen by yours truly. I can't die like this. Issei tried to get up, BLD pooling around him. His vision blurred as he stared into the endless sky. Serzex, looks like I won't be talking to you again. Rainier watched as Issei slowly began to sit up. Oh, would you look at that? The little soldier can take a bit of pain. You won't get away with this. You won't see the light of day. Someone will stop you, Issei managed to say before collapsing again, losing consciousness. In his thoughts, he remembered the times with Serzex, the only friend he had where he felt safe and comfortable. Smirking to himself, he thought, sorry Serzex, better luck next time. I hope you achieve your dreams. At that moment, one of the flyers began glowing. Someone was coming. Rainier felt a huge power approaching the area, freezing in the sky as she sensed it. This power? Who's this? Azazel isn't this powerful. Appearing through a magic circle, Serzex beamed with a smile, thinking of Issei. Issei, what's wrong? Did you miss? Serzex stopped speaking when she saw Issei's lifeless body on the ground. Sit. He can't be dead. Tears filled her eyes as memories of their time together flooded back. She couldn't believe it. This must have been a nightmare. He promised to be there for her. She couldn't lose Issei, one of her best friends. Rainier was faced with her worst fear. Serzex dropped to Issei's body, lifting him gently. I will make the one who did this to you suffer. The ground began shaking, dark clouds swirling around them. The barrier that had masked Serzex and Rainier was gone. Dark crimson energy engulfed the area as Serzex transformed, her body changing into the form that made her the super devil she was. The ground quaked violently. Serzex became destruction incarnate, her true form. Carefully, she placed Issei on the ground, manipulating her power to avoid harming him, and snapped her head towards Rainier. A barrier formed around them, ensuring no one could escape. With each step Serzex took, the surface cracked beneath her. The pressure she emitted began to burn Rainier. Rainier tried to fly away, but Serzex appeared right behind her, effortlessly erasing her wings. Rainier stumbled back, falling onto the cracked ground and crawling away. Serzex approached, each step echoing throughout the barrier. Please, I didn't mean to kill him. He didn't deserve to die. Serzex reeled her fist back and struck Rainier's shoulder. I wanted to keep him with me. Rainier realized there was no escape. Azazel wouldn't be able to handle this woman, let alone come near her. Words weren't effective as Serzex was lost in her own thoughts. Without hesitation, knowing that torturing Rainier wouldn't bring Issei back, Serzex eliminated her, causing her body to explode into feathers. Serzex looked at Issei's lifeless body and noticed that her barrier was beginning to crack from her expanding power. Grabbing Issei's body, she teleported to the edge of town, caressing his head as she placed him on her lap. I'm not letting you die. From a distance on top of a hill, she noticed a massive crack she had created in the town, which must have injured or even killed many. She was pulled from her thoughts by the sound of someone approaching. Serzex turned to see Greory beside her, her hair disheveled and eyes bloodshot. And he won't be dying. Greory sat down and gently patted Issei's head. Issei, my poor little boy, what happened to you? Seeing the large wound in Issei's midsection, Greory felt her emotions swell, just like Serzex. He was such an innocent boy, clumsy and adorable even in his mistakes. What did he do to deserve this? A fallen angel got to him, but don't worry, her very existence has been erased, Serzex said with a steely tone. Continuing to hold Issei, Serzex began to revert back to her regular form. There was no need to remain in that state, as the longer she did, the more chaos would ensue in the supernatural world. She didn't want anyone bothering her while she dealt with this. You still have 2 pawn pieces, right? Greory asked, and Serzex nodded. Greory sighed. If Issei was gone for good, the world would face a Berserk Serzex and her queen ready to unleash chaos. The entire fallen angel faction would have faced annihilation that day if it had come to that. I was just about to use them on him. Serzex retrieved 2 pawn pieces from her pocket and placed them on Issei's chest. Please, let your life be in my hands as you will serve the Lucifer. The 2 pawn pieces entered Issei's body, and Serzex watched with hope, eager to see him wake up and embrace her. As the wound in his chest began to close slowly, Serzex squealed with joy and lifted Issei up. He's mine. What will you do with the fallen? Serzex's eyes burned with determination as she glanced back at the chaos she had caused in the town. Azazel and I will talk. If he is innocent, there will be no issues between us. I will come as well. Greory insisted, not willing to let her king go alone, especially when it involved Issei. The 3 had grown very close over the past few months, and if one was in trouble, the others would come to help. Breaking out of her thoughts, Serzex looked back at the sleeping Issei and began lightly poking him. Soon, Greory watched as Serzex nuzzled Issei's face and giggled. Now that he is a devil. Greory teased, whispering into Serzex's ear, he's free for you to have, if you know what I mean. Blushing, Serzex playfully tapped Greory's head as she scoffed and teleported back to her mansion. However, Serzex couldn't help but giggle at the thought. Imagine her and Issei together forever. Issei, I can't wait for you to wake up. I always wanted to show you my house. Greory laughed, noticing that Serzex had left. I wonder how I can make the 2 embarrassed. Should I push Serzex into Issei when they are close and force a kiss? Should I accidentally take Serzex's clothing when they are sleeping together? Greory was ready to make Serzex's life a playful challenge from now on. Opening his eyes, Issei instinctively reached his arm towards the ceiling. Oh no! I thought I was about to lose it. I hate dreaming about needing a toilet. Finally noticing his surroundings, Issei realized he wasn't on the street anymore. He looked around to see a crimson bed, crimson curtains surrounding it, and a dark ceiling. It felt like he was trapped. Crawling to the edge and moving the curtains, he sighed in relief, seeing that he could escape. Wait, how am I alive? I had a hole in my stomach. This must mean he didn't die. There was no way he could be alive after that. Unless Issei had superpowers. Gently scratching himself to check for any healing, Issei found nothing. Okay, first option it is. It was just a nightmare. Walking towards the door in the middle of the room, he ignored the furniture and decorations. Opening the door quietly, he was met with a vast hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly. This looks like a trap. There's no way a hallway would be this empty and large. As he began to walk to the right, Issei noticed many doors. He didn't want to open any of them, he just wanted to find the exit. 1 step, 2 steps. Issei realized he could hear his footsteps echoing throughout the hallway, making him think that anyone could hear him snooping around. Time for Detective Issei. Where is the exit? Having had enough, Issei couldn't handle the slow pace any longer and began running at full speed. I'm never going to let myself be caught. As he ran faster, a door opened right in front of him, and bang, he slammed headfirst into it and fell onto his back. What? Sirzech stepped out into the hallway and saw Issei on the ground. Issei. Time skip opening his eyes, Issei found Sirzech right in front of him. Startled, he screamed and backed away, hitting his head against the bed frame. You really like getting hit in the head, don't you? Sirzech said, grabbing Issei's hands and pulling him closer. Calm down, it's just me. Sirzech. Where am I? You're in my room. Do you like it? Looking around, Issei recognized the room as the same one he had woken up in before. It looks amazing. I didn't know you were this rich. He frowned slightly, pointing an accusing finger at Sirzech. You were this rich, yet you made me buy the tickets and food for the movie. Not fair at all. Smiling warmly, Sirzech gently squeezed Issei's hands. I know, but you looked so adorable doing all that. I didn't want to ruin your moment. Issei noticed Sirzech was still holding his hand and felt a blush creeping up. He shook his head gently and asked, how did I even get here? Sirzech hesitated, debating whether to tell Issei the truth bluntly or ease him into it. Ultimately, she decided against complicating things. Issei, you died. Huh. Do you remember that black-feathered woman? Issei's expression shifted as he realized where this was going. How am I alive? If she killed me, how am I still in one piece? Sirzech sighed in relief, glad he accepted his death. I may or may not have stuffed a couple of teleportation pieces of paper into your clothing, bag, and phone. Staring at her blankly, Issei responded, that was you. I had a feeling. I got a little paranoid and decided to teleport into your room while you were sleeping and stuff them in. Blinking a couple of times, Issei felt a bit unsettled. We're getting off track. Back to the main subject. When that woman killed you, I teleported right in front of you. Seeing your death, I may or may not have snapped. But that's beside the point. I revived you to serve me as a devil for your entire life. Processing everything, Issei asked, so, you revived me to be your servant. It sounds terrible, I know, but that's just how we describe those we revive. In reality, you're given a second chance, and now I can always know where you are to keep you safe. Issei needed more confirmation. Seeing his expression, Sirzech released her demonic wings. Issei's eyes widened, and within moments, he believed everything she said. Why would she lie to him? Knowing he had died and that his best friend revived him made him feel much better. So, no servant relationship, right? Yes, no servant relationship. Just you and me being. She rushed towards him and hugged him tightly. Best of friends forever. She wrapped her wings around him, and Issei began to notice the patterns in her wings and how soft they were. Gently caressing her wings, Sirzech blushed at his fascination. These wings are so cool. You also have them too. I don't know how to explain how to show them to you, though. Really, I love being a devil. Issei exclaimed, excitement shining in his eyes. Did you also know that being a devil gives you more strength, speed, and the ability to do magic? Squealing in excitement, Issei wanted to learn magic so he could replicate his favorite characters. Can you teach me? Please. Of course. Sirzech hesitated, then decided to indulge him slightly. Releasing nearly her full power in her base form, she instantly regretted it when she saw Issei begin trembling in fear before passing out. His body was breaking down from the sheer power she exerted. Issei. Sirzech held Issei on her lap while humming a soft tune. She enjoyed having him near her, and now having him right in front of her in her home was amazing. Looking down at him, she gently pinched his cheek, watching as he wiggled in his sleep but continued to rest peacefully. I wonder if I did this. She giggled, unable to resist teasing him a little more as he slept. To Sirzech, Issei was the most amusing person in the world. How could someone so clumsy and clueless be so charming? Maybe it was because she didn't know many like him, but that was beside the point. It was time to wake Issei up. She poked him continuously until he finally opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was her face. Sirzech, why did you wake me up? I was having such a good dream, he groaned. What were you dreaming about? She asked. A appealing woman with crimson hair who saved me. Sirzech blushed deeply before Issei chuckled. Just kidding. Sirzech scrunched her brows and gave Issei a playful tap on the head. What was that for? Don't with me. You knew what you were doing. Pouting, she turned her head away, staring off into the distance. I did not need to be hit on the head. You deserved it for teasing me like that. Sirzech then thought of something. What should we do for training? Training. How will we train? Sirzech grabbed Issei and teleported to a large area covered in dirt. Turning around, Issei was met with a magnificent castle adorned with crimson tiles and refined marble walls, alongside an appealing garden to the right. The mansion was easily dozens of times larger than his high school. Ready to fight? She asked. Ignoring her comment, Issei continued to stare at the mansion, his jaw dropped. Sirzech walked over and closed his mouth with her hands. I said ready. You know, you look wonderful today. Flattery will get you nowhere. Not unless it makes you blush. Serzex blushed even harder and playfully smacked Issei, sending him flying. Your goal is to endure swinging at me for an hour. That's it? Serzex smirked. You don't even know how to fight, nor can you tickle me. I'm far too powerful for you, and with your comments, you might make me embarrass myself and hurt you severely. The way you put it, you make it sound like I'm your kryptonite. Chuckling, she flicked her finger, dragging Issei into the air toward her. Begin. Issei rushed toward her, but it didn't end well. After an hour, he lay on the ground gasping for breath while Serzex was on her phone. DMN, how do people continue playing this game? I'm Town Hall 14 and it takes forever to level up. Have you been playing that game the entire time? Issei frowned. What a way to let someone down. I need a way for you to grow your endurance because let's be honest, you look like someone who hasn't run at all in your life. Chill with the insults. I need to make sure you have a strong base before you even begin learning your potential. Seems fair. Issei groaned in exhaustion. After this, we have to clean up before Greory sees us. She'll give us a full lecture. Serzex watched as Issei continued to ignore her, staring into the sky at the reddish atmosphere, which was far different from the human world. Issei, get up, she said, grabbing him and lifting him up. What? He replied, snapping out of his daze. Stop ignoring me. I'm not ignoring you. Yes, you are. You talking just makes my body open both ears. One receives the information while the other spews it back out. Squinting her eyes, Serzex dropped Issei and walked away. I can't with you. Hey, didn't I say you look great today? Serzex turned back and exclaimed, Flattery will get you nowhere. But I wasn't flattering you. I was being genuine. Serzex blushed and continued on her way. I swear you're a troublesome child to deal with. Says the one who goes over 100 in a 25 zone. Didn't I say it was for enjoyment? I didn't get us in an accident. Issei stared at her blankly before snorting. You nearly caused me to have a heart attack. Not an accident. Screw you. Next time, I'll be driving. Serzex looked at Issei thoughtfully. Do you even know how to drive? Better to not know than to have you drive. The only reason we haven't crashed is because of your magic to maneuver the car. I'll have you know I only used magic twice with you. We both know that's not true. Issei retorted before walking with Serzex back to her home. I have a feeling that you're going to make my training session a whole lot worse. Smiling gently, Serzex replied, Of course I won't. I'll just gently toss you around. Issei didn't like that smile. After insulting her, she was smiling like that, which meant he was in for a tough session. Maybe he should write his last will before the next training. Just then, his stomach growled. Serzex looked at him joyfully. Oh, is someone a little hungry? Since Greory isn't home today, I'll be the one cooking. Issei, do not fear for I am here. Issei thought about food and wondered if Serzex would be a great cook. He had high expectations for the meal. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. Issei stared blankly at the wall. This can't be called food. It's terrible. Serzex stood in front of him, her tone stern. Too bad, because this is all the food you're getting. If you even think about going through my kitchen, I will use this spatula on you. The spatula gleamed in her hand, and Issei knew she meant it. However, the prospect of decent food was tempting enough to risk it. Once Serzex walked away, Issei quickly placed the food on the table and turned his gaze toward the trash can. Objective 1 found. He waited for Serzex to leave the room. Seriously, youngsters these days just need to learn that being grateful is all you need to be, she said as she exited, leaving Issei to contemplate his plan. He had done this with his mother before and thought it might be easier with Serzex. Rushing to the trash can, Issei disposed of the food, the garbage, and placed the plate with crumbs on the table. Serzex had decided that making black, crunchy rice was a good idea instead of something edible. He pondered, if I were Serzex, where would I hide my nighttime snacks? Issei looked toward the nearest cabinet. Serzex's kitchen was enormous, easily larger than the entire first floor of his parents' home. It must have been a quarter of the size of a football field. The fridge was one of those oversized models seen in celebrity kitchens, situated in the center of the room for easy access. Unfortunately, it was filled with food that needed cooking, and Issei wasn't the best cook. Without instructions and someone to guide him, he feared he might blow up the kitchen. The entrance was on the right, while the other 3 sides were lined with cabinets and countertops. Issei began opening cabinets in search of food. On his 3rd attempt, he found a bag of chips. Mission successful with no sign of Sirzech, Issei quietly made his way out of the kitchen. As he crouched down, he heard footsteps approaching and knew he had to act quickly. The living room was massive, filled with couches and decorations, leaving plenty of space in between. Taking a chance, Issei dove toward a couch and landed with a thud. I should check on Issei. I wonder if he finished his rice. Health should come first before snacks. Hearing Sirzech approaching, Issei knew he needed to hide. He crawled quietly to the side of the couch, trying to blend in with the marble surface. His breath hitched as Sirzech walked right past him. He had to stay silent, not even touching the chips to avoid making noise. Once Sirzech entered the kitchen, Issei seized the opportunity and dashed toward the hallway. He was so close when he heard, he did finish his food. I wonder where he is. Maybe I should reward him with something special. In a panic, Issei tossed the bag of chips out of the room, knowing he couldn't escape Sirzech's notice if caught. Sirzech emerged from the kitchen and spotted him. What are you doing running away? A yelp escaped him before he quickly composed himself. Oh, nothing, I was just walking to one of the bedrooms. Oh, are you tired? What do you think? You trained me for an hour. I just want to take a nap. Sirzech noticed his tired expression and realized she might have been a bit tough on him. Nodding in understanding, she smiled and let him walk away. Just make sure you aren't exhausted for our next session. I don't want you to be double sore the day after because I still need my bestie. Nodding quickly, Issei hurried out of the room, internally celebrating his success. He grabbed the bag of chips and dashed toward one of the bedrooms. Finally, he could enjoy a snack. Next time, he needed to have Greory cook or at least teach him how to cook. He really missed his mother's cooking. Yes, Issei exclaimed as he burst into one of the rooms, finding it identical in size to Sirzech's but lacking any decorations or luxurious items. With a smile, he leaped onto the bed. Eating time. Meanwhile, Sirzech felt skeptical about how Issei could eat her food. Greory had tried her forbidden black rice and scolded her for a week about how bad it was. Scratching her head, Sirzech decided to clean up the crumbs on Issei's plate. As she approached the trash can and opened it, horror washed over her. Every bit of the rice was in the trash. Burning with anger, she shouted, "Issei!" Rushing through the rooms, she found him lying on the bed, munching on chips. Issei! Startled, Issei widened his eyes at the sight of the fiercely angry crimson-haired woman before him, fists clenched. Ah, not again. Closing his eyes, he braced for punishment, but instead he received a gentle pat on the head. I can't even be angry at you. Greory couldn't eat it, and I expected you to eat my food. Let's just eat snacks together. Curious about the bag of chips, Sirzech's tone softened. Gimme, gimme. Liking her lips, she assumed a playful stance, hands outstretched as she slowly approached Issei. Suddenly, she leapt toward him, trying to grab some chips. Sighing, Issei offered her one chip and turned away. Mine. Sirzech paused midair, confused. Was that all he was going to give her? Pouting, she pounced on him. Gimme. No. Yes. And thus began the Great Chip War. After taming the chaos, Issei finally slept peacefully through the night. He had guilt-tripped Sirzech into leaving the room, allowing him the alone time he craved. In his dream, Issei floated in a small pool, surrounded by shadowy figures in the distance. Sipping from an apple juice box while wearing sunglasses, he thought, this is the life. No responsibilities, no nagging, no training sessions, and unlimited food. He just needed to think of something and it would come true. Suddenly, a deep voice interrupted his thoughts. This is my host. Wait, I wasn't dreaming about that. Before he could react, Issei was Issei into a whirlpool that formed in the pool. What? It felt like he was being flushed, and when he emerged, he found himself in a white void. In front of him stood a tall, intimidating dragon, covered in flames. I wasn't expecting my host to be close to such a powerful being, Drake chuckled, sifting through Issei's recent memories. Not only that, but you seem to have her care for you very deeply. Who are you? Drake squinted. Did Serzex not tell you about me? No, not really. She just mentioned devils, angels, and darker angels. Drake sighed. I'm guessing she was too excited to train you. My name is Drake, one of the 2 heavenly dragons who fought during the Great War. Really? You fought Serzex? What? Serzex wasn't around when I was alive. I fought God and Lucifer in person. Issei's jaw dropped. You must be really strong. Are you stronger than Serzex? I haven't seen much from her, but let's just say you're far below both of us, so it doesn't matter. Ignoring the comment about his strength, Issei continued, What's your ability? I assume as a dragon, you're more raw in fights. You're not wrong. I tend to use my fire breath, and if they survive, I finish them off with my hands. So, what do we do now? We're literally in the middle of nowhere. Drake pointed to Issei. This is the mindscape of the boosted gear. With a snap of his fingers, a red gauntlet appeared on Issei's right arm. Startled, Issei's eyes sparkled with amazement at the sight of it. The emerald gem glowed with a crimson aura. Boost in seconds, Issei felt a surge of power. His body tensed and he felt incredible. I have a power. Drake smirked. I would have made you bring it out yourself, but I didn't want to go through that process. Rather than risk you dying without realizing your potential, I awakened the gear for you. Pumping his fist into the air, Issei shouted in joy. Hell yes. I can be like Goku. Now, before you wake up, I should explain what your power is. It's a sacred gear named the boosted gear, and it allows you to double your physical attributes in battle. Each time you hear boosted, it will elevate your power to heights you have never felt before. However, in doing so, you will feel immense stress on your body, and if you reach your limit, you will lose control, leaving you defenseless. Drake noticed that Issei began fading away. It appears as if you're waking up. I suggest speaking with Serzex about this. She will be your teacher from now on. As Issei faded, he looked at Drake one last time. Will I see you again? Of course. We are partners. I am the very soul that resides within the boosted gear. The moment you wake up, I have a surprise for you. Nodding his head and disappearing, Drake stood in silence, reflecting on his host. This is definitely the weakest host I have, but I have a feeling that Serzex will turn him around. If her entire peerage is filled with giants, I'm sure that Issei Haidu will become a behemoth as well. Meanwhile, Issei opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling before getting up to think over what happened. He looked down at his right arm to see the red gauntlet still there. It wasn't a dream. I can become like Goku. Will you quiet down? Drake's voice came from the gauntlet. Issei widened his mouth before speaking. Drake, you weren't joking. So, will you be guiding me to become better at using the gear? Yes, but first, I think you should speak with Serzex about this. I need to discuss how to train you. I can't physically train you since my body doesn't exist, but I can ensure your mind is at its peak at all times. Serzex, I don't want to train with her. She's going to be tough on me. Issei groaned, knowing what was coming. Drake laughed, poking fun at his host. What? Afraid of a little challenge? Can't believe the newest Red Dragon Emperor is worried about a spar. Shut up. You know what? I'll prove you wrong. I'll show Serzex what I've got today. That's the spirit. Let's go. Boom, and there he goes again. Grafia watched the fight between Serzex and Issei. Was it entertaining to her? Not really. She was witnessing a one-sided match where Serzex kept outmaneuvering him. Oops, my bad. Serzex dusted off the dirt from Issei, who was face-planted on the ground. Drake, I hate this. Partner, I know. Getting beaten is just the beginning. Trust me, it's always the hardest at first. Not this motivational talk. What else were you expecting from me? Keep pushing through. Sighing, Issei realized he was lifted into the air. 1 point for Serzex. Not even trying to argue, Issei simply landed on his back and decided to stay down. I hate you. Don't be a sore loser. Serzex teased. Issei groaned before trying to get up. I think you overdid it this time. Shrugging, Serzex replied, I can't really tell how much power I need to hold back. Feeling a blow to his pride from her words, Issei dramatically clutched his heart, causing Serzex to laugh before helping him up. You know, at this point I could be your caretaker. I take care of you, feed you, and tuck you in. Issei shook his head. You beat me up, Greory feeds me, and you just toss me into bed. Serzex pouted before letting go of Issei, who groaned in pain before finally deciding to get up. Ready for the last round for today? No. Too bad you don't get a choice. Sighing for the umpteenth time, Issei got into position before boosting. Rushing at Serzex, he began to slow down as he approached her, anticipating her first move. Noticing her smug grin and wide-open stance, Issei boosted again for an extra edge. With a sudden burst of speed, he nearly caught Serzex off guard, but she easily spun away from his kick and lightly pushed his shoulder down. The sudden force sent shocks throughout Issei's body, nearly knocking him out of his boosted state. Pushing against the ground, he gained distance from Serzex before boosting again. He needed a surefire way to catch her off guard. Before he could act, Serzex was already behind him, playfully drawing imaginary circles on his back. Jumping away in fright, Issei found nothing there. She was toying with him again. In anger, he powered up even further, glowing red with determination. Serzex, seeing this, pretended to sit in midair. Fireworks. Fueled by determination, Issei rushed at her once more, aiming to exploit any weaknesses as he circled around her, observing her moves. She was dozing off while watching him, aware of his presence. Gritting his teeth, he pushed himself and finally reached his limit, shouting, Greory said you're a dumbass. Serzex's eyes widened as Issei seized the moment to appear right in front of her, planting his fist into her face and yelling, Explosion! Channeling all his energy into that one strike, he slammed her into the ground, creating an explosion that filled the arena with smoke. Greory watched in amazement as Issei managed to land a hit on Serzex. Knowing Serzex was just toying with him, Issei realized that saying random things would confuse her, allowing him to land a minor blow. Not bad, little one. Greory felt a sense of pride seeing Issei grow stronger. Serzex appeared behind the exhausted Issei, who was still on the ground with his hand planted, wearing a pouty expression. You nearly ruined my dress. Issei shouted back, I'm going to ruin a lot more than that dress. He attempted to strike again, but having exhausted all his energy, he tripped and passed out. Serzex caught him, lifting him into her arms with a sigh of relief. She didn't want to push Issei too hard, fearing it could lead to serious injury. Kissing his forehead lightly, she looked down at the peacefully snoring boy with a fond expression. You're going to go big one day, Issei. As she walked toward Greory with Issei in her arms, Drake decided to join the conversation. I wouldn't mind fighting against you one day, Lucifer. Serzex raised an eyebrow. Is that so? The stronger the better the fight. Not fun for me. Why is that? I hate having one-sided battles. Why, you little? Shut up and let me enjoy this peaceful moment with Issei before he becomes rebellious again. Drake was about to protest when Serzex placed her hand on the gauntlet, making it disappear with a surge of her magic. Greory. The silver-haired maid turned to her friend. I need you to tell me the truth. What? Did you actually call me an idiot? Greory looked at her with a deadpan expression. Who told you that? Issei said it to me and it surprised me. Knowing you, it probably was the truth. He made. She paused, smirking. Actually, I did call you a dumbass. A very huge dumbass. There must be a word that can describe you because dumbass is too light. Serzex felt offended. Well, I think you're stupid and pathetic. Doesn't change the fact you're a dumbass. I should have taken you out during the war. Serzex carefully placed Issei on the ground and rushed at Greory, who began to run away. Get back here. Greory sprinted as fast as she could, with Serzex chasing her at full speed. Serzex had called Issei into the throne room for a reason. Pacing around, she was conflicted about whether this was a good idea. Making Issei meet him could lead to trouble and put him in danger. Maybe introducing him to Tannen would have been smarter, but Greory suggested this was the better option. Before long, Issei burst through the door, still exhausted from their earlier training, and raised his fist. "I am ready for my mission." Serzex noticed Issei's ripped shirt and bare skin, causing her to faintly blush. Before she could speak, a large man with orange hair stepped forward and laughed. "This is who you want me to train with." Standing before Issei was someone known for his immense power in the underworld. "Partner, the power I sense from him is incredible." Hearing Drake's praise, Issei felt a wave of caution. "How powerful?" "Serzex levels." "Nowhere near that level, but it's closer to Greory's. That territory of power is known as run away or get out of the way." Issei felt the overwhelming power emanating from the man and began to feel nauseous. "He's just a child. What did you see in him?" In an instant, Issei watched as Serzex slammed her fist into the man's head, nearly knocking him out. "Knock it off, Surtur." Hearing that name, Drake's eyes widened in recognition. "That can't be. How do you have the legendary fire giant of the Norse pantheon, Surtur, in your peerage?" Serzex was going to explain but decided against it, simply nodding. "I thought having two hot-headed individuals train together would be interesting. Let me introduce Issei, the ultimate rook." Surtur puffed out his chest in pride while looking down at Issei, who was amazed. "So, what should we begin with for training today?" Issei tilted his head and said, "I haven't trained legs in a while." It was as if they shared a telepathic message and the two locked eyes. Issei started shaking before running out of the room. "Oh no you don't. We are training legs today." Surtur dashed behind Issei and began carrying him to the special gym in Sirzech's palace. Serzex looked confused by how quickly it all happened. They were just strangers, yet they already had a plan to train. "Issei wasn't that fast in training with me." She felt a pang of jealousy at how quickly the two were working together. Greory walked into the room with a smile, carrying a box of cookies. "Where did Issei go?" Serzex blinked at her before responding, "I sent him to train with Surtur." Placing the box down on a nearby table, Greory clapped her hands together, her cheerfulness evident. "I'm glad the two are becoming great friends. I'm going to deliver these to them right now." She dashed out of the room, leaving Serzex alone to process everything that had just happened. Meanwhile, Greory ran down the hallway to the special gym, which had magical enhancements to increase training difficulty. This allowed for gravity magic to be used, making equipment like barbells and dumbbells heavier for mass monsters like Tannen. Opening the door with a smile, Greory quickly lost it as she saw Surtur yelling at Issei, "Harder! Push harder! That's nowhere close to enough." Issei struggled with a barbell filled with plates, squatting at a slow tempo. Gritting his teeth and grunting, he pushed himself harder, spurred on by Surtur's relentless encouragement. "Partner, if you don't do 15 reps right now, you're worthless." Drake chimed in. "That's right." Surtur leaned closer to Issei, whispering, "We're not done yet. After this, we'll do Bulgarian split squats, then leg extensions with a superset of sissy squats." Issei gulped in fear but nodded, pushing himself for the next rep. Greory burst into the room, exclaiming, "Surtur, what are you doing?" An angry Greory rushed in to help Issei, but Surtur blocked her path. "Don't interrupt his training. You're going to hurt him. No pain, no gain. This is ridiculous. You're treating him like a child." Greory began to release her magic, dropping the room's temperature, but Surtur countered with his own flames, raising the heat. He held his ground, glaring back at her. "What? Serzex told me to train him. Now let us be." Turning back to Issei, Surtur added, "We also need to work on your hamstrings before combat training." Issei felt like collapsing at this news. "Isn't this?" Surtur interrupted, looking disappointed. "You're not human anymore. You're half devil, part human, and with that sacred gear, you're part dragon." I'm going to push you beyond your limits. If you don't listen, I will bring Tannen. Grafia interjected, oh no you won't. Sir, bring in the big guns. Tell Tannen he can train a boosted gear wielder. Surtur imagined the grin on Draig's face as he sent the message to Tannen. Grafia had enough and unleashed her full power, but Surtur silenced her with a finger. Do you really think you can take me and Tannen down? We can easily persuade Sirzech that we are making Issei into a monster for her. Just know this is for the best. With that, Surtur focused back on Issei, pushing him even further in his training. Another 2 sets left. Remember, working out is upper body, training is lower body. If you want those legs to grow stronger, you need to push this session to the max. Yes, coach. Issei replied, smiling faintly as he completed another rep. Do it until your body aches. Do it until you can't stand up straight. Do it until you're sick of it. Then do it some more. A week had passed, and Sirzech found herself pacing, her thoughts consumed with worry for Issei and the recklessness of sending him to train with Surtur. She hadn't heard a word from him, except for a complaint relayed by Grafia. When she finally ran to the gym, it was too late. Issei was already with Surtur and Tannen. Though she felt a bit more at ease knowing Tannen was there, doubts about her decision lingered. Meanwhile, Issei lay on the ground, exhausted but chuckling as he spoke with Tannen and Surtur, who had transformed into his giant form to match Tannen's size. You know, sometimes I wonder if I wasn't going to a co-ed school, maybe I wouldn't have so many enemies. Tannen chuckled, familiar with Issei's story from their training sessions. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't you who was the issue, but the women. I mean, if they knew the hole was there, wouldn't it be common sense to close it up? How many times would you and your friends peek at them? It was basically an everyday thing. Surtur shook his head in amusement. And they didn't think to use some wooden planks and nails to close it up. Partner, didn't you also tell me that the entire staff were women? Wouldn't it raise alarms if your actions got around? I have a feeling either the women enjoyed teasing you or liked the attention. It doesn't seem right that the hole is still there. I have to agree with Draig on this one. How about this? You go back to school next week, right? Issei nodded. Then check the hole again. If it's still not patched, that just confirms they know but don't care. Surtur decided to ask, why did Sirzech revive you? Issei thought for a moment before responding, we were basically best friends before I was killed by a psychotic woman, and she revived me. Surtur and Tannen exchanged amused glances before laughing. Best friends? Come on, you two are practically inseparable. Are you sure you aren't something more? Blushing, Issei shook his head. I swear we aren't. Plus, it would be dangerous for her to even think about dating me. She is the Lucifer, while I'm just a half-devil hybrid. I mean, you are also the boosted gear wielder. Is that supposed to be a high position in the supernatural world? Tannen looked shocked. Are you serious? Draig, didn't you tell him about the power of the boosted gear? I didn't tell him because I knew he would be safe under Sirzech's protection. I was waiting for him to become a competent fighter before revealing the dangers and the power behind the boosted gear and its prestigious title. Well, we have us too, and you can always help out too, Draig. Might as well tell him about the power of the boosted gear. Surtur turned to Issei. My boy, the power of the boosted gear isn't something to be taken lightly. It has the potential to defeat even the gods. The ability to double your base power continuously with each boost is incredible. Issei was about to respond when he caught the word base. If my base form is stronger, then my boosted state would be even more powerful. Tannen nodded. Exactly. If your base power is strong, you can boost it even further. You would be able to handle more boosts overall. It was as if Issei was beginning to connect the dots. That's why you were training me so hard. The training in strength, speed, and endurance was all to prepare me for the power of the boosted gear. Surtur smiled in satisfaction. That's right. We wanted to ensure you were ready for that power. Not only that, but we wanted to bring you closer to the strength we hold. Sirzech would have been a great teacher if you were more magic-based, but you're more about brute force and strength, like a dragon or like me. Since we've been resting for a while, are you ready for some more training? Nodding, Issei stretched his body in preparation. First mission of training, you will need to carry these milk cartons in this box all around that mountain until you reach the top. What? This will test your endurance. Serta placed the box on Issei's arm, watching as he nearly toppled over. What the heck? Why are they so heavy? I decided to add more magic to make them heavier. Can't make it too easy for you. Now, hurry up and start running. We don't have all day. Nodding, Issei began to run toward the mountain, thinking, this is going to be a terrible day for me. Serta and Tannen watched as Issei ran. He's not coming back until tomorrow. Want to spar? Tannen shrugged and nodded. Let's wait a bit before sparring. I want to make sure Issei isn't caught in the crossfire. He may be decently strong, but he isn't anywhere near our level. Meanwhile, Serzex was pacing her room, frustrated. Where the hell are you, Issei? She was about to blow a fuse. Grafia, sitting calmly with a cup of tea, watched Serzex throw a pillow across the room. You should calm down. Snapping her head toward Grafia, Serzex marched up to her. Calm down. How am I supposed to calm down when that idiot is out there with two brutes? Maybe you should have thought twice about sending him to train with Serta. Maybe I should just, I'd like to see you try. I will. Attempting to grab Grafia, she dodged and dashed away. Maybe all that mass on your chest is slowing you down. Serzex growled, we have similar sizes. You're right. Maybe use both sides of your brain before making a move. That's it. Serzex began launching spheres of destruction at Grafia, who effortlessly dodged while sipping her tea. She had dealt with a wild Serzex before. Throwing a small icicle at Serzex, Grafia rushed forward as the icicle shattered. Once in front of the determined woman, Grafia, Serzex quickly struck with an uppercut but was met with resistance. Enough, Grafia. With a swift motion, he knocked her out. Pesky woman. Doesn't she know not to bother me? Serzex couldn't help but admire the peaceful expression on Grafia's face as she slept. Deciding to have some fun, he grabbed a marker with invisible ink and began doodling on her. He searched for silly images online, eagerly anticipating Grafia's reaction when she woke up. This will teach you not to mess with me, Grafia. With newfound energy, Issei charged at Tannen, his body brimming with power after 2 weeks of intense training. He slammed into Tannen, unleashing an explosion that transformed the terrain around them, leaving even Serta impressed. In 2 weeks of near-death training and the boy has turned into a man. The blast left a crater, and Tannen, with only a minor scratch, regarded Issei with amusement. Not bad, you tickled me. He brushed off the dust from his leg. At this point, you could give some high-class devils a run for their money. With your sacred gear and our training, you're bound to become a formidable force. Ow! Issei exclaimed, cradling his injured hand. Maybe that wasn't the best idea. It was the only way to get their attention, Drake replied. I've been getting messages from Serzex about bringing you back. She's been missing you, Tannen said, sighing at the thought of facing Serzex for not following orders. We both are, Serta added with a laugh. And we don't care about it. Issei, want to join us for a walk? Tannen asked. Sure, let's go. The three set off, with Tannen transforming into a human form and Serta shifting back to his humanoid appearance. You know what we should do? Tannen suggested. What? Serta replied. We should prank Grafia. How? Let's put some stink bugs in her room. She'll hate the smell when she goes back in and will blame Serzex. You're evil, Issei exclaimed. Not just that, we should add some spiders in Serzex's room too, Tannen continued. Issei shook his head. She usually has me stay in her room to play games. How about we do it in her throne room? Serta nodded. We could add spiders and something Grafia usually carries. Issei thought for a moment. Serta, remember that box Grafia uses for cookies and treats? Serta's eyes widened. You're a genius. We should steal that box and place it in the throne room. Let's also add some magical grenades that create a smoke cloud, Drake suggested, and the others agreed. Issei added, we should include a punching glove that pops out when the box opens. Tannen chimed in, And cover it in cake to mess with Serzex even more. What about a hand that comes out and playfully slaps her with pie? Issei proposed. Tannen paused, considering the expense of Graphia's suit. Then he burst into laughter. Now that's something we need to do. I can't wait to see her stoic expression disappear. Then we can add flames to the pie to ensure it disintegrates completely, Drake added, and the group smiled in agreement. Plan, initiate the prank. They all fist-bumped, even Drake joining in with a forceful gauntlet appearance. Soon Issei and the others had their plan set. They placed a box filled with stink bugs in Graphia's room, with a box that would playfully slap her positioned nearby. Issei, concealed by Drake, watched through the window, eager to witness the outcome. When Graphia entered, she immediately noticed the unpleasant smell. "Why does it smell terrible in here?" she asked, approaching the box. As she opened it, Issei clicked a button on the SW she held, ready for the chaos to unfold. When Graphia erased the bugs from existence with a frown, a pie-covered plastic hand sped toward her, making contact unexpectedly. She squeaked at the sudden touch and turned to see the hand, now furious. In her anger, she failed to notice that her dress was on fire, the fabric burning away. "Serzex!" she screamed, rushing out of the room, determined to confront him. A similar scream echoed from the other side of the building, where Serzex shouted Graphia's name. When they finally met, they began yelling at each other. "I will get you for this. I will strangle you like I would have done to your brother if given the chance. I will tear you apart." They continued to pull at each other's hair until they paused, realization dawning on them. "Wait, if you didn't do it. And I didn't do it, then who did?" Just then, Issei entered the room, and they both turned to him, asking calmly, "Issei, it's a little strange that you showed up after we screamed." "I didn't even know you both screamed. I was just dropped off by Tannen. I'm hungry." They exchanged glances, understanding what had happened. "Issei." "What?" Issei sat down with a frown, Serzex pinching his cheeks. He was upset but felt powerless. "Now, have you learned your lesson?" Serzex asked. Issei nodded, remaining quiet as they scolded him. Once they finished, Serzex lifted him into the air. "I didn't even do anything," he grumbled, but Serzex found it adorable. He was still annoyed about being treated like a child, yet he was also back talking like one. Before anything else could be said, Issei yawned, clearly tired. Serzex decided he would stay in her room that night since she wanted someone to hug while sleeping. "Issei, you'll be staying here for the night. I'm bored and need someone to hug." "Why not have Graphia be your pillow?" "Because she hates being my pillow and you're warmer." Issei sighed and nodded. "Fine, but don't get overly clingy." Time passed, and Issei found himself wrapped tightly in a blanket, with Serzex clinging to him like a koala. He felt uncomfortable from the heat. "Sit. I want ice cream." "Great." She was sleep-talking again. Instead of fighting against the hug, Issei began patting her head, hoping to help her relax. As he did, Serzex loosened her grip, and he seized the opportunity to escape, only for her to grab his hand. Turning to her, he realized she had been faking sleep. "More head pats," she demanded. Knowing he couldn't win this battle, he continued patting her head, watching her melt under his touch. What was it about head pats that made her so relaxed? Soon, Serzex tired from the comfort and hugging. The next morning, they were playing a two-player game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, with Issei speedrunning through levels while Serzex lagged behind. "Sit. Stop running so fast," she exclaimed, nearing her last life. Issei smirked and sped up, dragging her along, causing her to scream in frustration. "I demand you to stop." As he ran past a hill with a gap, he stopped to let her fall slightly before moving on, causing her to get stuck between the screen and the wall. "Say." Serzex slammed her controller down and leapt at him. "Wait." Stopping midair, she glared at him. "What?" "I just want to say one thing." "Spit it out already." "Get good, dumbass." "That's it." Grabbing Issei, she slammed him onto the ground and sat on his stomach, forcing him to struggle beneath her. "Now let's see how you play while you're struggling to breathe." Squirming underneath her, Issei smirked and continued playing. Just because he was pinned didn't mean he would play poorly. I will be number one. Serzex noticed he had collected enough lives to revive her, but as she was in a bubble, she called out, "Hey Issei, I'm right here." Issei remained silent, focused on speedrunning until he reached the flagpole. "Hey, pop my bubble." Issei made a mad dash towards the flagpole. Rushing forward and touching the flagpole, he beat the level while Serzex, who was playing as Mario, watched from her bubble. Once Blue Toad landed on the ground and did his victory dance, Issei sighed in satisfaction. "You were supposed to pop my bubble. And watch you die again." "Nah, I'd rather not." They were in the desert world. The difficulty wasn't insane, but it was certainly more challenging than the first world, where Serzex had struggled. Now, as they moved onto the castle stage, Issei watched Serzex carefully maneuver to avoid causing her to lose. Unfortunately, she failed miserably as Issei was right at the point where he was phasing her out of the screen. In a desperate attempt, she grabbed him and pulled him close, using her magic to obscure his view of the screen. "I am not dying again." With that, she began playing at her own pace. Carefully making each maneuver, Serzex finally reached where Issei was before passing him. How does it feel to be looked down upon by a noob? Issei blushed at the closeness, but Serzex was too invested in the game to notice. This was the closest he had ever been to a girl, and he felt a mix of confusion and embarrassment. He remained silent, trying to process the situation. Soon enough, Serzex hit some spikes and lost a life. "Nuu." Sighing in defeat, she looked down and noticed how close Issei was, causing her to blush. Realizing what she was doing, she let go of him and stepped back. "Sorry," she muttered, looking away. "It's all right," Issei replied, turning back to the screen. "I died." Serzex noticed she had finally reached her 20th continue and looked down in disappointment. In the silence, Issei remembered what his mother taught him about talking to girls. He decided to compliment her. "Your chest is very soft." He gave her a thumbs up, hoping to make her happy. Serzex blushed deeply, covering her face and mumbling incoherently before jumping onto her bed to hide. "Welp, I guess it's time for me to solo him." With his mind back in gamer mode, Issei and Blue Toad were ready to crush it. "I had Issei so close, and I felt my heart beating. Didn't I tell you to wait a year before he becomes legal?" Greory exclaimed at Serzex. "That's not the point. I felt my heart beating. And I told you to wait a year. You don't get it." "Yes, I do. He's supposed to be my best friend, not someone that makes my heart race." Greory sighed. "Serzex, we both know that Issei is not only your best friend and supportive buddy, but also someone you care for deeply. Him making your heart race means one thing." "No, don't tell me." "It's a hunch, but maybe you only felt that way because you were embarrassed." A blushing Serzex is someone who's easy to tease. Being reminded of her embarrassment caused her to blush again. Lightly hitting Greory's arm, she could only chuckle. "Do you think it's time to tell Issei what's happening with your sister?" Serzex frowned at the mention of her sister's arranged marriage. Why would he need to know about that? Think about it. You and I saw the fight between Rius's peerage and Riser's peerage during the raiding game. It was close, but Rius ultimately lost. You could use Issei to help Rius gain her freedom. Greory began explaining her plan, but Serzex frowned and interrupted. "No, I will not use Issei and take advantage of him. I refuse to use his trust for my own needs." But think about it. We both want Rius out of that arranged marriage, and Issei's power could easily deal with Riser. He's a dragon that can handle those flames. Shaking her head, Serzex walked away, disappointed by Greory's suggestion. "I'm sorry, but I will not use Issei's trust against him. I will find another way to help her." Greory remained silent, her expression somber. Once Serzex left, Greory thought to herself, "This is the only way." Serzex doesn't see that time is running out. Rius's wedding is in 1 week, and she has no one to fight against Riser. She will have no choice but to marry him. Greory didn't like the idea of using Issei either, but he was powerful enough to confront Riser, and she could frame it as bringing in an outsider to challenge him. She just needed to hurt Riser's pride before he would lash out, even at Sirzech herself. Grafia needed to explain this to Issei. Maybe they could get Rius out of the difficult situation she had been placed in. Walking down the hallway, Issei noticed Sirzech ahead and waved at her. Sirzech. The woman turned and smiled lightly. Hey Issei. Whatcha doing? I'm just going back to paperwork. Want to watch a movie tonight? I heard it's scary and funny. Sirzech's eyes brightened for a moment before returning to a somber expression. I would love to, but I have more work to do. I'll talk with you in a little bit. Being reminded of her sister's situation was something she hated. Luckily, Issei was there to keep her mind occupied, but even the thought of Rius's arranged marriage soured her mood. She needed to address these arranged marriages once and for all because no one would stop her once she had all the Satans on her side. Issei watched as Sirzech walked away, feeling confused. Sirzech would never decline a movie invitation, especially for something comedic or scary, and this movie was both. Blinking a couple of times, he moved on and continued walking until he reached the gym. Upon opening the door, he met Surtur and Tannen, both waiting for him. Get on that bench, we're going to work out, Surtur said. Nodding, Issei took off his shirt and started bench pressing with his friends. Once he was done, Tannen loaded up the barbell with a significant amount of magical plates, making the weight immense. Issei got underneath and began lifting. Surtur followed suit, and they continued training together until Issei was visibly exhausted. You both don't mess around with training. Of course not. They aren't soft like you. Nice encouraging words, partner. The three chuckled at Issei's predicament. Issei, wanna join us at an arcade in the underworld? We're both bored and have some free time. Sure, I haven't been to one in years. With that, the boys headed out to enjoy the night. How do I beat this game? Issei exclaimed, gripping the joystick and twisting it as fast as he could. I've never seen a game move this fast. Tannen chuckled, watching Issei struggle to keep up with the blocks falling in unusual shapes. He needed to reach a certain score to advance to the next level. It was like Tetris but for supernatural beings. Of course not. These are enhanced for supernatural beings' reaction speeds. At level 4, you won't be able to handle it. The highest score in this game was set by our Berserk Serzex. Really? Surtur laughed, taking the joystick from Issei and easily beating the level. If you think the games in your world are tough, wait until I show you some from hell. After finishing the level, he handed the joystick back to Issei. I was lucky enough to score in the top 10 on this game, just like Tannen over there. Ajuka and Sirzech are just incredible. They outscore us by 5 levels alone. One day we will reach that level. One day, I will be on that leaderboard. Tannen nudged Issei playfully. And we'll make sure to surpass you and kick you off the list. Issei pouted before turning his attention to a different game. Is that poker? No, it's Joker. Same concept but different mechanics. Guess who's the best at this game? Sirzech. Tannen shook his head. Surtur laughed, saying, that imbecile wouldn't be able to strategize in these games even if she had prep time, considering how bad she was at Mario Brothers. No, the best player is rumored to be the Legend 27. Who? The Legend 27 has never revealed their identity. It said they show up, beat everyone, take their winnings, and spend it all on beer. I heard the Legend 27 eats rocks for breakfast and produces diamonds. Tannen added, I heard their sweat is what fills the oceans. Surtur chimed in, I heard the Legend 27 had a stalemate with Chuck Norris. Really? Issei was amazed. Surtur and Tannen nodded. One thing's for sure, the Legend 27 is someone no one should mess with. This is the last time I'm doing this. What is happening with Issei? Surtur pointed at Issei, who was floating in the air. Break time. Issei continued floating while Draig yelled at him. If you do this again, I will eat you from the inside out. I hate floating. Just fly. I didn't think you thought of me like that. Eating me from the inside out. Sorry, I don't care if you're an immortal dragon, I don't swing that way. You know what I meant. Draig began shaking Issei's mindscape. Stop. This was giving Issei a massive headache. No. I don't think I will. Fine, don't stop. If anyone asks about us being the Red Dragon Emperor, I'll tell them we should be called the BRST Grabbing Emperor. Drake gasped at that. There was no way he would let this happen. Sitting quietly, Drake remained calm. Tannen face-bombed while Surtur grinned mischievously. Wait, why is Surtur grinning? He will make sure you're titled the BRST Grabbing Emperor. Widening his eyes, Issei could hear his heart beating. Drake. Partner. They watched as Surtur began skipping away happily. Let's beat his butt. Drake empowered Issei with his own strength from within the boosted gear, and the young man rushed at Surtur. Come back here, you see. You'll never catch me alive. Surtur continued running as fast as he could. Move faster. Drake urged Issei to push beyond his limits. While Surtur and Issei were running around like children, Grafia sat on her couch, deep in thought about her conversation with Serzex. There was no way she would back down. The idea of being married to someone she didn't love was unbearable, especially considering that devils lived far longer than humans. She couldn't let her little sister-in-law endure a life like that. Grafia needed a way to save Rius, and her only hope was to involve Issei. Rius's entire peerage would struggle against Riser and his team, and Issei, being new to the supernatural world, could be the perfect ally if they could appeal to his ego. Once a high-class devil's pride was hurt, chaos would ensue. However, Issei was the Red Dragon Emperor, trained by the strongest peerage of all time. Grafia hesitated to use him, but she knew he could overpower Riser. His dragon heritage meant that flames like Riser's would barely faze him. Grafia felt confident that Riser would be defeated. Before she could think further, she heard commotion outside her room. As a maid, she got up to investigate the source of the noise within the Lucifer Palace. Opening the door, she found Issei and Surtur running in circles. I'm going to beat your butt. You can't even catch me. Issei shouted, leaping towards Surtur, who abruptly stopped running. Issei missed and slammed into Grafia's leg. Ow! He got up and glared at Surtur. Come here. Before he could chase after Surtur, Grafia wrapped her arms around him. Issei, confused, looked up at her. Good job, sir. Thank you for bringing Issei to me. You saved me the trouble of finding this problem child. She lifted Issei and walked into her room, locking the door behind them. Once inside, Issei took in his surroundings and realized he had been taken captive by Grafia. Issei, I needed to speak with you. It's urgent. Hearing the seriousness in her voice, Issei nodded. I know why Serzex is acting the way she is. Oh boy, here comes the backstory, Drake commented in Issei's mind, prompting an eye roll from Issei. I can hear your thoughts, you know. Returning his focus to Grafia, Issei watched as she locked the door. This doesn't feel good, he thought. Grafia sat on her couch and patted the seat next to her for Issei. Once he sat down, she began explaining everything, the marriage agreement between their families and the pressure on Rius to marry Riser. She revealed why Serzex felt powerless to intervene and how it saddened her to see her sister face such judgment. Let me get this straight, the most powerful devil in history can't save her sister. Grafia nodded, confirming Issei's disbelief. How? She could erase most beings in the world with a wave of her hand, from what Surtur and Tannen have told me. Before Grafia could respond, Drake intervened. Welcome to politics, Issei. The world tries to suppress Serzech's power to keep her controlled. She knows acting out could lead to another war. Grafia sighed, shifting the topic away from politics. I need your help. You can save Rius and help Serzex overcome her own despair. How? He asked. The higher-ups were disappointed with how Rius performed in her raiding game against Riser, especially since she nearly defeated his entire peerage. This was her first game, and she did remarkably well against someone who has been undefeated for a long time. We can leverage this against Riser, showing the higher-ups that they were not pleased with the outcome. Issei's understanding clicked into place. You want me to fight him and announce that I am the Red Dragon Emperor to gain the higher-ups' interest in this fight. Grafia smiled and hugged him, hopeful. Yes. I know this might seem manipulative, but you are our best chance to prevent this marriage from happening. We don't have much time to devise another plan, especially since Sirzech refuses to discuss it. She has submitted to reality. Sirzech had saved my life before. This is the very least that I can do to repay the debt. Getting up, Greory couldn't help but wrap her arms around Issei, pulling him close. She was thoroughly excited. Finally, after a roller coaster of disappointments and disasters, the nightmare that had haunted the Greory family was coming to an eventful end. Issei squirmed in her hold, a blushing mess. This was the second time this was happening in 2 days, and it felt overwhelming, especially since the girl who had shown interest in him last time had tragically passed away. Now, a hatchling was going to face a full-grown bird. The atmosphere was tense as Rius Greory and Riser Phoenix stood side by side. Rius, wearing a beautifully decorated wedding gown, looked down with her hands clenched into fists, accepting her fate. She turned her head to see her sister, the person she admired, looking away in solemnity. This was something they had dreamed of avoiding but could not escape. Rius caught sight of her mother, Venelana, in tears, feeling regret for being part of her daughter's predicament. Riser was cheered on by the crowd, basking in the glory of having one of the most appealing women in the supernatural world as his soon-to-be wife. As Riser turned to see his parents cheering him on, Sirzech turned away, beginning to sob. Greory, standing next to her friend, hugged her tightly, patting her on the back to soothe her pain. Seraphal frowned at the sight of her friend, the hero of the underworld, in such distress. Do you, Riser Phoenix, accept Rius Greory as your wife? Without hesitation, Riser shouted, I do. Do you, Rius Greory, accept Riser Phoenix as your husband? She knew her choice didn't matter. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, someone burst through the door. No! Issei shouted, clenching his fists as he faced the crowd. Riser, outraged, sent his guards at Issei. Tannen and Surtur watched in shock as their pupil disrupted the wedding. The guards were quickly incapacitated as Issei unleashed a powerful blast, knocking them out in seconds. Rius was stunned to see Issei, someone rumored to be dead, appear and disrupt her wedding. Sirzech watched in amazement, unable to form words. Greory smiled with pure happiness for Issei's boldness. She exchanged a knowing glance with Ajuka, signaling that their plan could begin. Ajuka, one of the most powerful devils, approached the stage with confidence. Well, this is quite a surprise, he remarked. Riser's anger turned to fear as he faced Ajuka. My lord, what is this? Did you plan for this? The higher-ups and the Satans are disappointed with your performance against Rius Greory, Ajuka explained, holographic ratings appearing behind him. You fought as if you were not facing a threat, and your entire peerage was dismantled by Rius's singular attack. This is not the performance we expect. My lord, isn't the result what matters? Riser protested. That may be true, but to maintain your reputation and possibly gain a promotion, we decided to introduce a new fighter to the supernatural world. Ajuka pointed to Issei, who was making his way up the stairs to the stage. My people, I present the newest Red Dragon Emperor. With his title announced, Issei unleashed his aura, filling the room. Despite limited training, he was already reaching high-class power. The crowd gasped, including Riser, as the title instilled fear in weaker beings. Promotion. Reputation. Riser contemplated the benefits. All you must do is defeat the Red Dragon Emperor. He is merely a hatchling in power. If you defeat him, I will promote you and grant you a wish from Sirzech and me. The reward was substantial. A wish from Sirzech and Ajuka was enough to entice anyone, and a promotion was the cherry on top. Riser really wanted to agree, but a fight with the Red Dragon Emperor was something not to be taken lightly. Hesitating, he felt as if this was a trap. Looking at Issei, Riser didn't notice anything about him that seemed special. His instincts urged him to dismiss this challenge and continue with the wedding. And if the Red Dragon Emperor wins, what will he be given? Riser sensed there was more at stake. Someone in the crowd shouted, giving rewards to someone who isn't even a high-class being, what incarnation? Ajuka quickly silenced the crowd before chaos erupted. Rewards will always be given to either fighter. Say, Dragon Emperor, What wish do you seek upon winning this battle? Cancel the wedding. Those words shocked everyone. Rius was taken aback. She barely knew Issei, yet he was already attempting to free her from this predicament. Riser was ready to reject the match immediately after hearing that. He was not going to let this disrupt his day. What do you say, birdie? Then he heard Issei call him a birdie. You dare call a phoenix a birdie? Riser was engulfed in flames, angered by the disrespect. He hated being called anything but what he was worth. He was the golden child. A phoenix. No one, regardless of their status, could disrespect him without consequences. Sirzech watched with hope. Seeing Issei stand his ground in front of Riser made her heart race. She had felt her heart flutter around Issei before, but this was different. Was Greory telling the truth? Watching Issei smile fearlessly was heartwarming. Why was he such an influence on her? He was her best friend. Right? She couldn't stop blushing. Taking a few steps closer, she called out, You sure about this? Hearing his best friend speak, Issei turned and gave her his signature smile. I'll be fine. Just sit back and watch. At the end of the day, someone is walking out without their feathers. Sirzech was captivated by his gentle smile, feeling flustered like a schoolgirl. She quickly shook her head to regain her focus. This went unnoticed by nearly everyone except Greory, who smiled at the unfolding scene. Clearing her throat to regain the audience's attention, Sirzech asked, Both fighters ready? Riser knew he needed to prepare for this fight but opted to equip his armor. Ready. Issei had a plan. Ready. Standing on opposite sides of the battlefield, Issei and Riser were prepared to face each other. One would emerge victorious, fulfilling their dreams, while the other would continue with life. Begin. Riser rushed at Issei, flames engulfing his body, aiming to burn him to ashes. He intended to force the Dragon Emperor to surrender. However, Riser didn't anticipate Issei's resilience. Being part dragon and having made a pact with Greory, Issei easily withstood the heat. With Riser's flames no longer a concern, it became a contest of skill. The challenge for Riser was that without his flames and with a power advantage, he was at a disadvantage. Many newer generation raiding game kings tended to hold back and let their pieces pressure the opposing team. Riser, born with immense magical powers, struggled when STRPD of his flames, especially against someone trained by the best in the underworld. Dodging a punch aimed at him, Issei called upon Drake. Welsh Dragon over Booster. He recalled a conversation with Drake, contemplating a strategy. He needed a way to secure his victory rather than relying solely on his power. Sensing Issei's unease, Drake asked, What's wrong, partner? Drake, what if my body can't withstand his flames? Despite encouragement from Tannen, Surtur, and Greory, Issei felt doubt. This was his first fight with real stakes. In previous encounters, the consequences had been minimal, but now he faced actual challenges. Drake offered a solution. Partner, I can help. If you sacrifice your arm, I can transform it into a dragon arm, granting you a glimpse of the boosted gear's power for 30 seconds. Issei considered the offer. Transforming his arm into a draconic one seemed like the answer. Not only would dragons naturally be stronger than devils, but this could significantly enhance his power. I'll sacrifice my 2 arms for this. Drake was taken aback by his partner's determination and burst into laughter. Of course, but be ready because this will be painful. Standing right in front of Riser, Issei was covered from head to toe in crimson-scaled armor, radiating pure depths with his aura. Sirzech, watching from the stand, was wide-eyed at the sight. Although Issei hadn't achieved the balance breaker state, she recognized the power he had gained. He was truly prepared for this fight. Sirzech clasped her hands together, hoping nothing bad would happen. Partner, you only have 1 minute. Who am I kidding, just beat his butt? Looking at Riser's terrified expression, the battle began. Without a moment to react, Riser was slammed into the ground as Issei unleashed a flurry of punches. Blow after blow, Riser struggled to withstand the pressure and attempted to erupt in flames to create some distance. However, Issei absorbed the flames effortlessly. With a powerful strike, Issei shattered Riser's nose, But he wasn't finished yet. Lifting Riser by the head, Issei asked, "Let's try 1,000. Riser gasped in fear, but it was too late. Issei punched him into the ground and continued his relentless assault. BLD began to spew from Riser as his body struggled to regenerate from the damage. Issei noticed that Riser's regeneration was slowing down. The crowd watched in fear as Issei approached the point of no return, where Riser might not survive the onslaught. After the 1,000th blow, Riser let out an ear-shattering scream, a sound of a broken phoenix. Each strike was devastating, and while his body appeared fine on the outside, the internal damage was severe. Kicked away from Issei, Riser struggled to rise, his regeneration faltering. Issei realized he had won and knew there was no need to continue fighting. Turning away, he declared, "The fight is over." Riser could only cry in pain from the ordeal he had endured. Cringing at his actions, Issei wondered, "Did I go too far?" Revel Phoenix arrived and offered her brother a phoenix tear to aid his recovery, while Issei watched them leave. Riser's face was battered, his body torn, and his pride shattered. In mere moments, the proud son of the Phoenix household had become a broken man. Issei felt a pang of sympathy. He had witnessed a brilliant spirit turn into a mere shell. However, the weight of his actions lingered heavily on him. Continuing to observe Riser, Issei sighed. Was there another way? The Red Dragon Emperor is the winner. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Issei remained silent, feeling the exhaustion of the day wash over him. "Partner, what you did was necessary," his companion explained. "The Phoenix family is known for their instant regeneration, which is tied to their magical abilities and mental endurance. The more pain they experience, the less effective their regeneration becomes. You had to push Riser past his breaking point to secure your victory." Nodding, Issei accepted his win and looked forward to returning home to visit his parents. A smile crept onto his face as he recalled his mother's cooking. "I want cheesecake." Serzex finally came to terms with her feelings for Issei. It hadn't taken long for her to realize her affection. Their time together had made it clear. His bravery in saving her sister had sealed her admiration. Breaking through the stadium with her power, she flew to meet Issei in the raiding game dimension. No one dared to intervene. Serzex was a force of nature. As she approached Issei, Grafia felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing she could now focus on ensuring Serzex wouldn't act recklessly until Issei was older. "Issei!" Serzex called out, slamming into him and embracing him tightly. She refused to let go. As they returned to the real world, Serzex continued to hold him aloft in her arms. "You're the best." The moment was heartwarming, but the public watched the scene unfold with mixed reactions. Serzex quickly realized her mistake upon seeing the eyes watching them and teleported the two right back to her palace. Even someone of Issei's caliber, the Red Dragon Emperor, was unworthy of being close to the Lucifer in the face of the devils. "I guess that happened," Serta remarked, continuing to drink while Tannen shrugged. "We have a lot of issues now. The supernatural world knows about Issei and how close he is to Serzex. We need to ensure he doesn't get into serious trouble," Tannen said, prompting a groan from Serta. Serzex threw Issei onto the bed and leapt onto him. She knew she needed to wait to do anything with him, but there was one thing she could do first: mark him as hers in some way. After all, she had already given him one of her pawn pieces. "Serzex!" Issei exclaimed as she kissed him on the cheek and hugged him tightly. "You saved my sister. I can't thank you enough." "No problem. Just let me know if there are any other issues you're dealing with," Issei replied, poking her forehead. "And no more moody Serzex, only happy and joyful Serzex from now on." Serzex pouted before chuckling. "Fine. Only because you said so." Finally, the overbooster form timer ran out, and Issei slumped onto the bed, letting relaxation wash over him. Serzex noticed the draconic arms Issei had developed as he ran out of energy and gasped in horror. "What? No, don't tell me." She realized the increase in power and the transformation could only have come from someone giving power to Issei. Seeing the draconic arms, she deduced it was from Draig or Tannen. "Draig, you didn't turn Issei's arm into dragon arms." Issei remained silent, as did Drake. Serzex grabbed Issei's arm, worry etched on her face. You sacrificed your human arm for these just to defeat Riser. I. She was speechless, tears blurring her vision. She had promised herself to keep Issei away from the brutality of the supernatural world until he matured, but she felt she had already failed. Issei hugged her to calm her down. There's no need to worry. These arms look so cool. Look at them. I can cosplay as a humanoid dragon. Trying to lighten the mood, he heard Serzex chuckle softly. As long as you're okay with it, I'll be fine with it, she said, wrapping her arms around him again. Issei, I wanted to ask you something. Serzex blushed heavily while Issei waited for her to continue. From the moment I met you, I felt something in my heart whenever I was near you. I kept pushing the thought away because it couldn't possibly be true. However, after seeing you save my sister, fighting for what's right, and saving my life, I knew it was true. My heart kept beating, and my eyes couldn't look away from you. I love you. Issei's mind raced as he processed her words. This was a stunning woman, someone he was close to, and she was confessing her love for him. Drake grinned and used his power to help calm Issei down. Say yes. She has always been there for you. She has kept you safe from the supernatural world. This moment is about how you feel about her and how you want to move forward with the woman who saved your life. Seeing Issei remain silent, Serzex began to tear up, fearing the worst. This was the first time she had ever confessed to someone, and she braced for rejection. However, Issei finally spoke. You know, I always liked women older than me. Serzex's eyes widened as she processed his words, and then she smiled through her tears, leaping into his arms. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Drake laughed in joy within the boosted gear while Issei couldn't help but grin, tears in his own eyes. He had finally found love and would not be alone. No. Thank you, Issei said softly, before being silenced as Serzex pulled him close. Serzex sat down with Issei beside her, beaming with joy, knowing that her Issei was finally hers. She was so happy that the news of her sister's wedding being cancelled was only half as good as what she was experiencing with Issei. Grafia, what if we have Issei and I marry when he's 18? What? Drake, Grafia, and Issei all exclaimed at the same time. Serzex looked at them in confusion. What was wrong with this? You can't do that, Grafia firmly stated, pointing to Issei. First of all, Issei is too young for that, even when that's too early for him. Serzex pouted, but he would be an adult. I don't see a problem. Grafia continued, didn't the marriage issue with Rius and Riser give you any hesitation about this? Yeah, but that was because the two didn't see eye to eye. She grabbed Issei by the head and placed her forehead against his, rubbing her cheek against his. I love him and he loves me. Grafia sighed, deciding to leave this issue until Issei turned. At the very least, make sure to keep clear of doing anything inappropriate with him. Grafia knew she would need to ensure nothing went wrong between the two, especially since Serzex was new to relationships. She had a feeling that if Serzex thought she was being too soft in their relationship, she would take the next step just to prove her love. Drake laughed, partner. This is the most entertaining thing I have seen my host do, besides that one host who backflipped into the women's bathroom. No comment, Issei replied, and Drake fell silent afterward. Serzex was still determined to marry Issei as soon as he became an adult. We should tell my parents about this. Serzex smiled. I get to meet Mr. and Mrs. Issei. With that, Issei finally teleported away from the Lucifer Palace. He hadn't done it before because Serzex deemed him too weak to roam around alone. As Lucifer, she was busy most of the day, aside from her time with Issei, and couldn't accompany him for long. Now that Issei was more powerful and she knew he would wander off due to curiosity, she thought it was the perfect time. Not only that, but she could bring Issei's parents into the conversation about marrying him early. Appearing right in front of his house, Issei blinked a couple of times before staring at the door. Serzex looked around, noting that his house was just as well built as she remembered. It wasn't fancy, but it was nice enough. Whenever she picked up Issei with her car, She noticed small details, like the uneven terrain and the old-looking driveway. Issei felt nervous confronting his parents. What did they think of what had happened to him? Now, facing them again, he felt terrible for not letting them know he was alive. Sirzech squeezed his hand, and Issei nodded. He walked up to the front door and knocked. When the door opened, revealing his mother, she smiled warmly. Hugging her son, she buried her face in his shirt. "I was waiting for when you would be back." But did she know he was alive? "When I was told that you were attacked, I was going to find that woman myself, but thankfully I heard she was dealt with." "How did you know?" His mother smiled through tears. "I was so happy when Sirzech told me you were safe. She said she had to treat you for a bunch of injuries." Turning to Sirzech, Issei was shocked. Tears streamed down his face as he realized how terrible it was to keep his mother in the dark. He smiled at Sirzech and said one word, "Thank you." Sirzech nodded and left the mother and son alone. Walking into the house, she had already informed Issei's mother that he was alive. She knew from her own experience that her mother would have been panicking if anything had happened to her. That's why she immediately told Issei's mother that he was alive and just needed to recover. To impress her further, Sirzech mentioned that she was a professional doctor. "When Sirzech told me she was a doctor, I was so glad. You didn't tell me she was a young prodigy in the medical field." Miki smiled, clapping her hands together. "I'm so glad you have such good friends. She even told me her best friend was your best friend, Greory. Is she here?" "Yes, I'm right here." Greory entered the house with elegance. Seeing the mother and son together, she sighed in relief that she arrived before anything could happen. Miki squealed and hugged both Sirzech and Greory. This calls for a celebration. Issei wondered where his father was. The sound of his mother's voice should have been loud enough for him to hear. "Where's Dad?" "Oh, your father is at work." With that, the four sat down at the table in the middle of the living room. "Lady Hyudu." Looking at Sirzech, Miki laughed. "How kind. But dear, call me Miki. If you're a friend of my son, then you're a friend of mine." This nodded before continuing. "Miki, we have some important things to discuss. You want to marry my son when he turns into an adult." Miki summarized what Sirzech had told her. "Yes, he is the love of my life." Sirzech remained serious while Greory sighed, knowing that Miki might reject this. "Why didn't you say so?" "What?" Greory exclaimed upon hearing the response. Miki smiled with joy. "Why would I say no? My son will be marrying someone who's a doctor and so responsible. Not only that, but my son always dreamed of marrying someone appealing." Sirzech blushed at the compliments. "Thank you. So, when my son turns 18, you will marry him?" "Yes." Miki squealed, grabbing Sirzech's hand. "Yes." They both began laughing and hugging, spinning in circles. "I promise to be the best daughter-in-law." "I believe you. Thank you for saving my son and his lonely heart." Issei turned to Greory and said, "I got a wife that can destroy me. Any suggestions on surviving?" Greory sighed. "You could just tickle her whenever she's mad. You can tell her that you know her secret baby pictures. Wouldn't she know that I'm lying? She's naive when it comes to you." Issei smiled before relaxing on the couch. "Holy cow. I got a wife. This feels unreal." Sirzech sat next to Issei and cuddled her head into his neck. "And I got a husband. After so many centuries, I finally have someone who loves me." "Oh my gosh." Miki screamed. "I need to take a picture of this." Greory watched Sirzech smile and laugh with Issei, unable to help but smile too. Seeing Sirzech, who had been alone for so long, now blushing and getting embarrassed like a schoolgirl was a moment Greory would never forget. Greory turned to Miki and asked, "How about we celebrate this with some dinner?" Miki nodded and ran to the kitchen, with Greory following while Sirzech and Issei continued discussing their future. "If we have a child, I want their name to be Milikus if it's a boy and Makima if it's a girl." "Oh, maybe moving too fast there. Let's first wait until I graduate high school." "But that's like forever." Sirzech pouted, throwing a small tantrum. "Why can't time move faster?" And I'm hoping for the exact opposite. I want to stay a child. I hate responsibilities. Too bad. You will have to be responsible for stealing my heart. Sirzech placed both her hands on his shoulders and began shaking him. Do you like the names I mentioned? Yes. I do. Issei struggled to keep himself together while being shaken, and Dreig added to the chaos by laughing. Perfect. Sirzech calmed down and relaxed into the couch with Issei. Let's watch a TV show. Like what? Well, I used to watch romance shows and movies, but then I got jealous of them. Now, since I finally have you, I can watch them and throw shade at them. Issei disliked those types of shows. That's when he noticed something special on the TV. Is that the newest Elden Ring game? Immediately, Issei's attention was glued to the trailer. Sirzech looked confused before feeling jealous of the attention Issei was giving to the TV. She tried to get in front of him, but Issei dove to the side to continue watching. The Firekeeper. Issei widened his eyes. There was no way they were bringing elements from the previous games into the current one. Sirzech tried to block his view by spreading her arms, but Issei ducked underneath and crawled between her legs to get in front of the television. Nameless King. Issei screamed in excitement and slight fear. Sirzech finally had enough and grabbed Issei by the head, tossing him onto the couch and turning off the television. That's it. No more TV. Just the two of us talking. Issei was still dreaming about what he had seen, lost in thoughts of the games he had played. Sirzech lifted Issei up and began shaking him. Speak to me. Meanwhile, Greory and Mickey were preparing food in the kitchen. What should we start with? Greory pondered what they could make with the ingredients available. How about some mashed potatoes? Mickey suggested, then added, since we are celebrating, how about we make all of our favorite foods? I'll make cheesecake for Issei and me. I'll make some pudding for Sirzech and me. Greory liked the idea. A small reward for enduring emotional struggles together. Then let's begin. Mickey declared, turning on her chef mode and cooking as fast as possible. Greory struggled to keep up. So, this is the legendary cooking skill of a mother. Now I know what I need to surpass. With determination, Greory began moving even faster. Within record time, they were halfway done. I want to ask, how was Issei as a child? Mickey paused, nostalgia washing over her as she recalled the memories that made her love Issei so much as her son. Issei was always someone who made mistakes before learning from them. His curiosity often led him to trouble, like the time he threw a marker at a teacher just to see what would happen. It was a lesson learned. Greory smiled softly as she watched Mickey become emotional. I love Issei more than anything in the world. He means so much to my husband and me. He's always been innocent and eager to make new friends. I remember a time when he was scared after watching a movie where a hand came out of a toilet. He didn't want to go into the bathroom afterward. Mickey hesitated before responding, if you don't mind me asking. Does Issei have any siblings? The question struck Mickey hard. No. Issei is an only child. I had a few miscarriages that could have been his siblings. Greory realized she had pushed too far and immediately hugged Mickey. I always felt like a terrible mother, thinking there was something wrong with me. Seeing Issei with other siblings always broke my heart. I wished he had someone his age to rely on. Mickey fell silent, emotions welling up inside her. One thing I will say. You raised your son to be an amazing man, Greory said gently, trying to comfort Mickey. It makes me a little jealous that he's your son and not mine. Mickey chuckled softly and wrapped her arms around Greory. Thank you, Greory. Now that Issei was back and his mother knew he was alive, he had to return to school. His father, tired from work, was glad to see him healthy. Standing in front of the school building, Issei took a deep breath to calm himself. Despite his power, he was more of an introvert and preferred not to engage with unfamiliar faces. As he walked forward, he was met by Rius Greory, who smiled widely at him. I'm so happy to see you. You saved me from Riser and made my entire family happy. I also heard about my sister being with you, she exclaimed. What? How? Issei asked, surprised. Did you really think she would keep it a secret from my mother? My mother told me afterward just to give me some teasing material against her, Rius said, puffing out her chest with pride. Wait, if Serzex's mother knows about me, does her father also know? Issei inquired, feeling a bit anxious. Rius nodded, causing Issei to spiral into thoughts about what her father might think of him. My father thinks you're perfect for Serzex. It's not like they can do anything about your relationship, she's the Lucifer after all. She could handle herself against anyone. Oh, that's nice, Issei replied, feeling somewhat reassured. But my mom did say to keep an eye on you. She trusts you, but wants to ensure nothing bad happens, Rius added, contemplating how to do so. Luckily I have Kiba in your class and I have control with Sona over this territory. We should be able to keep you safe. Wait, why do I need protection? Issei asked, confused. Because my mother said that since you're just starting to be recognized by the higher-ups, you're still considered a child in the supernatural world, Rius explained. Hey, I'm not a child. Issei protested. You're a child. Rius declared. I'm almost an adult, he countered. You're 17. And what are you? I'm 18. I'm an adult. Rius barked back. Issei shrugged. Well, you sure don't act like it. Look who's talking. Rius shot back. Before their banter could continue, Akino stepped in, raising her hands. All right, let's relax, you two. Aware they had been discussing supernatural matters in public, Rius and Issei fell silent and nodded. As they walked with Akino, Issei noticed the stares he received. He had been gone for a while, and now his return was causing quite a stir. Upon arriving at the occult building, Rius and Akino opened the door to reveal Kaneko and Kiba seated on the couch. Kaneko remained cautious, aware of Issei's reputation, while Kiba waved cheerfully. Hey Issei! Kiba greeted. Issei waved back and looked around. This place is ancient. Hey, I take offense to that. It's just unique in its own way, Rius retorted, pointing out the decorations. Very boring, Issei replied teasingly. Rius growled before sitting at her desk. All right, since you'll be working with us, how about you join our club so it doesn't look weird when you walk into our building? Why would I do that? Issei asked, intrigued. I want to join a different club. We have couches. The nurse has a bed. You can skip classes with this building and it won't be considered a violation. Skip? Like could I skip a test? Of course, I can always make an excuse powerful enough to get you out of an exam for the day. Rius smiled in triumph, knowing this was the final straw to bring Issei into her club. She knew for sure that bringing him into her peerage was a no-go, plus she wouldn't do that without his permission. At least having him connected with her through the club was good enough, allowing her to communicate with him about the situation around town. Having more allies was always a plus, especially with someone with a novice peerage like hers. Yes. Issei had a math exam tomorrow that he had put on his calendar but forgotten to study for. He was going to fail and needed a way out. His mother knew about the exam since Issei had mentioned it before his life changed, and she wouldn't allow him to go to Sirzech, insisting he study. This was his chance to skip classes that felt useless to him, like music or PE, especially when he felt far more powerful and fit compared to a regular human. Perfect. Rius slammed her hands on the desk just as a teleportation circle appeared next to them. Sirzech and Greory materialized beside Rius. To others, the appearance of the great Lucifer and her queen was awe-inspiring, and they immediately bowed in respect. However, Issei was confused about how Sirzech found him. Sirzech smiled upon seeing her sister, but when she turned to Issei, her expression shifted to confusion and then a hint of anger. Jealousy bubbled inside her at the sight of Issei comfortably chatting with Rius. Why, Issei? I didn't expect to see you here speaking so comfortably with my sister. How long has this been happening? For minutes, Issei replied instantly. Big sis. Why are you here? Rius exclaimed. I wanted to share the news about Issei and me. Sirzech turned her full attention to her little sister. I am going to marry him soon. With that, Rius fainted. Rius woke up to find her sister and peerage surrounding her while she rested on the couch. Shooting straight up, she had to know, Sister, I just had a nightmare. You said you were going to marry Issei. Sirzech laughed at Rius's distress, finding it amusing to see her sister worried about her. Rius, however, misunderstood the smile and sighed in relief. Thank goodness it was just a dream. I understand. You all can laugh at me for such a ridiculous dream. Hearing no laughter except from her sister and Greory, who was chuckling into her hand, Rius's eyes widened with suspicion. No, it must be the presence of her sister and her queen that was scaring them. But then she noticed Sirzech stopping her laughter and smiling softly at her. No, this can't be. Don't tell me this is really going to happen. Sorry, Rius, but I'm planning on marrying Issei. In seconds, Rius screamed and began to panic. But why? Are you against me marrying Issei? Sirzech's smile faded. No. I trust that you will be happy with Issei, but it's more about Issei. He's going to be in danger if he gets caught in your attacks. The difference between you two is like comparing Great Red to me. I can train him to become powerful. But you're so powerful that you will attract attention from everyone. Rius was concerned not for the fact that Sirzech was marrying Issei. She didn't care about his reputation. She wanted to ensure he would be safe with Sirzech. You're a walking power magnet. Everyone knows everything about you. Sirzech nodded but chuckled. You see, I have Issei under high protection. A few of my pieces are always guarding him to make sure he won't be in danger whenever he leaves my palace without me. Sirzech patted her little sister on the head. Not only that, but I will be introducing him to mother and father today. If you can keep him protected to where it won't hurt you both, then I'm happy as well. I should believe in you both more. You're the ruler of hell and he's the Red Dragon Emperor. That's so much better. Sirzech got up and looked towards Greory. You think Issei's done with his English test? Just then, Issei burst through the door, looking less than pleased. I think I barely passed that exam. Issei. Sirzech leapt right into Issei, taking him to the ground with her. Landing with a thud, Issei started to caress her head. What's wrong? Nothing, I'm just glad to have you here again. Wait, you barely passed your exam. Greory interrupted. Did you not study at all for that exam? It's an English exam. I thought that since I have Draig, who auto-translates everything, I could pass easily. Turns out, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I realized I understood everything, but I sure didn't know how to write properly. Issei scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Greory shook her head in disappointment. Sit. Don't ever become too confident before an exam. You're not like those who don't study and get perfect scores. Who knows? Maybe I could ace one of these exams with ease. When's the last time you actually did well on an exam? Greory countered. I got a 70 on my math exam. That isn't called doing well. That's called doing average. Actually, that's called doing below average. Greory really needed to teach Issei how to study, but she also wouldn't be around much since she had duties with Sirzech to represent Lucifer and her queen. Turning to Rius and Aquino, Greory glared at the two. I have the perfect solution. I can teach Issei. Sirzech exclaimed, but was quickly silenced by Greory's glare. If I have you two studying with him, I have a feeling trouble will start brewing. Greory walked up to Rius and Aquino, signaling that there was no room for discussion. You two will help Issei study. If I hear that he doesn't do well on an exam, I will be coming. After you. Understood. Rius and Aquino nodded in fear. Turning to Issei and Sirzech, Greory sighed before telling them, Your mother and father are waiting, Sirzech. They called asking me to bring you both to them. Sirzech squealed and lifted Issei up. I can't wait to tell mother about my little treasure. Forming a teleportation circle, Issei was left thinking to himself, Draig, what went wrong in that exam? Oh, that exam. I fell asleep and forgot to help you. DMNU, Draig. Don't you have an exam tomorrow? I can't wait to give you all the wrong answers. Draig wasn't going to help Issei. No, Draig was going to make sure that Issei would fail just to make him realize that school was useless for him. Issei now knew he needed to use a teleportation circle and telepathically tell Sirzech about the questions, hoping for a proper answer. Sirzech had told him that she was incredibly smart, not on the level of a Juka, but enough to be considered a genius in high school. Once they left, Rius and Aquino were left breathing heavily while Kiba and Kaneko were playing checkers. Wait, how do we even play this? Kaneko shrugged her shoulders. We bought the game, we can make the rules up. This is the Super Queen piece, and I declare that it can change colors. And this piece is called the Knight in Shining Armor piece, and it auto-wins all games when moved, Kaneko declared. Rius and Aquino were left thinking about how challenging it would be to teach Issei the basics in his classes. They didn't want to get in trouble with Greory. Standing right in front of the Greory residence, Issei looked straight at the mansion and gasped in amazement. It was just as big as Sirzech's palace, and the fact that the mansion had so many maids and butlers surprised him. Wait, why don't you have maids and butlers? Because I don't do much besides paperwork or being with you, Sirzech casually said, before everyone in the vicinity bowed in her presence. But special perks of being Lucifer. Good thing I don't have to do that, Greory muttered, standing beside Issei to ensure nothing bad happened to him. With Sirzech on his right and Greory on his left, Issei felt secure. Taking a few steps into the residence, Issei was met with a long hallway lined with red carpets and expensive decorative paintings. Sirzech. Yes. Did you steal the idea of having a long hallway with red carpet and overly decorated walls from your parents? Obviously, it makes the entire palace feel like home. Issei muttered, yeah, and I wish I could make an expensive mansion feel like home. Sirzech squinted her eyes at him. What was that? Nothing. Sirzech wasn't having it. You have magazines. No. Greory, please remind me to check Issei's room right after this. Of course, we'll make sure to do so together. Wait, why don't we sell them? If I hypothetically had them. Because I have a feeling the longer I am near those magazines, the more I will want to punish you, Sirzech stated before noticing they were nearing her mother's room. She didn't get to finish her thought because Venelana walked out of her room upon hearing the commotion and noticed the three. When she saw her daughter, Venelana handed the pot she was holding to a maid and ran to her daughter. Leaping into the air, she hugged Sirzech tightly, glad to see her daughter again, especially since she only visited a couple of times a year. Little destruction. Venelana turned to see Issei right behind her daughter, looking awkward. Issei? Yes, ma'am. Chuckling at his serious tone, Venelana carefully placed her hand on his cheek. No need to be so afraid. I'm only going to give you a hug. What? Sticking her tongue out, Venelana chuckled. Just kidding. Sighing in relief, Issei was lifted into the air again. Sirzech. He's so adorable. Where did you find him? Mom. Stop that. Sirzech grabbed Issei back and held him close. Venelana quickly took him from her arms and held him near her chest. Well, if you're going to marry him, then I get to spoil him like a son. Not only that, but we both have the same color hair. Nuzzling him to her cheek, Venelana was having way too much fun teasing her daughter. If you ever want to visit me, you can. Sirzech, feeling jealousy flare within her, grabbed Issei and pulled him close, holding him tightly. She wasn't going to let her mother do anything to him. Issei, if you even dare to visit my mother without me, I will make sure you sleep on the couch. It didn't sound so bad to Issei. He could sleep peacefully without anyone disturbing him. And I will make your training purely sparring with me. Okay, that sounded terrible. Oh my little destruction, don't be so harsh on him. Venelana patted Issei's head, causing Sirzech to growl at her. He just wants someone to spoil him. Mom, don't you dare spoil him. That's my job. Issei was left confused about why he was being treated like a child. Yo Drag, am I really going to be treated like a child? Yeah, what's the issue with this? You don't have pride to begin with, and you also get to be taken care of. What's the issue with this? Drag was watching the scene with amusement. He had just woken up from a nap and was greeted by this chaos. But I feel as if I'm not going to have free will when I'm around these three. Better them having control than you. If you were given freedom, you might burn the world down. Hey, I'm not that bad. You had an extra roll of paper towels yet still stole the last roll in the other stall. You probably traumatized a grown man with that trick. I'm pretty sure you can't get any more mischievous than that. I just wanted to make sure that I was extra prepared. While Issei was mentally arguing with Drake, Serzex continued her argument with her mother. Just look at him, he's so adorable and docile right now. Darn it. He's talking with Drake again. Serzex began shaking Issei to bring him back to reality. Say. Slapping her daughter lightly, Venelana scolded her, "Don't hurt him. It's very rare to find a man like him. Someone willing to save the day." Serzex pouted. "I'm not a child anymore." "One thing, Serzex." Her mother walked up to her and whispered into her ear, "Make a bunch of grandbabies for me. I want to spoil so many of them." Serzex blushed and began stuttering, losing her grip on Issei. Looking down at him, she could only dream of what her kids would be like. "Our first kid will be named Milicus." "Oh, that is a wonderful name." Venelana clapped her hands and squealed with her daughter. "I'm going to buy his clothes right now." Grafia sat down with a beach chair and sunglasses, watching the entire scene unfold. "Are they done yet?" One of the maids shook their heads. "Nope, I think they are talking about their potential third child's name." "I'm in a room filled with idiots." Tannen laughed with Surtur about what was happening with Issei. "The young lad did it. This might be the first time we will have a dragon hatchling and a devil together." "Not just a devil, the strongest devil of all time," Surtur added. "Issei really does the most random things and scores the best. Something tells me someone is pulling the strings for this to happen," Tannen said while traveling with Surtur toward Issei's location. Surtur laughed at Tannen's implications. "Don't worry your little head about this. Now we have orders to keep an eye on Issei. Doesn't mean we can't have some fun with him." Landing right in front of the palace, Issei burst through the door and continued running. "We need to leave." What? Don't question it. We have an angry Lucifer behind us." Serzex followed with an angry aura that sent fear into the two giants. "Get back here. You like my mother so much, then go to her." "I told you it was not like that." Grabbing onto Tannen and hiding behind his back, Issei poked his head out and grinned, "Tell me what you're going to do now." Serzex appeared behind Issei and grabbed him by the shirt. "I can move faster than you can think." "Oh, did anyone ever tell you that you look absolutely gorgeous?" Serzex blushed before shaking her head and glaring, "I'm immune to that now." "Whoa, you got something stuck on your shirt." Serzex looked confused and glanced down. Issei took this chance and kissed her forehead, leaving her a blushing mess. "That was a kiss. That was my lifesaver." Issei quickly nodded to Surtur and Tannen and teleported away with them. Serzex grabbed the spot where Issei kissed her and smiled brightly. "I'm going to write that down somewhere and make sure to remember it for my entire life." Serzex screamed while running inside her palace, ignoring the fact that Issei had escaped. Issei landed in front of his house to see a few hooded figures waiting for him. Beside him were Tannen and Surtur, so he felt secure. "Who the hell are you two?" "We don't need to tell." One of the hooded figures interrupted, removing their hood to reveal an appealing girl around Issei's age smiling brightly at him. "Sit. I can't believe it's you. It has been forever since we last talked." "Yo Issei, you know this girl." Turning to Surtur and shaking his head, Issei was baffled. "Excuse me, but do I know you?" Gasping in offense, the girl dramatically began crying, "It's been a decade, and you already forgot about me. Did I mean so little to you?" Issei backed away, disbelief etched on his face. "Rin." Irina squealed in happiness and launched herself at Issei, toppling him over. "I knew you would remember. I missed you so much while I was away." Before she could continue, Tannen intervened, lifting Irina off Issei. "Sorry, little one, but try not to be too close to Issei." Irina shivered in fear as she realized who was in front of her. The Dragon King, known for siding with the devils, was Tannen. She hadn't noticed the other giant nearby, too focused on Issei's sudden appearance. "Sorry." Irina screamed, leaping away to stand behind Zenobia. Tannen blinked a few times before laughing. Don't worry about me. I'm just here to make sure this idiot next to me doesn't do something stupid. I'm not going to hurt you unless you step out of line. Zenobia, unamused, turned to Issei. Do you know who the ruler of this land is? Yes. Why do you want to know? We have some very important business to discuss with the rulers. Issei shrugged. Rius is near the school. If you speak with one of them, the other ruler will show up. Zenobia nodded and began walking away, with Irina clinging to her. Suddenly, Sirzech appeared right in front of her. What business? Zenobia looked up at the giant, unfazed. It does not concern you. Leaning down, Sirzech stared into her eyes. Between me and you, let's be real here. Tell me what is happening. The ruler of this land is my emissary. You are not worthy of meeting her. I will say this once more. Tell me what is happening now. Sensing Sirzech's immense power, Zenobia began trembling. This power rivaled that of Michael himself. Backing away, she tripped, causing her hoodie to fall and reveal her face. I apologize. Getting up, she continued, I will tell you what is happening. The pieces of Excalibur have been stolen. Instead of shock, Tanin and Sirzech snorted in amusement. Oh, the twigs have been stolen. Did you hear that, Tanin? It was about time that would happen. I'm surprised someone didn't do it before. Zenobia was baffled by their nonchalance. How can you say that? Excalibur is one of the most powerful blades in history. Its absence should be a crisis. Sirzech began shaking his arms in mock fear. Oh no. I'm shaking in my boots. Waha. Little one, those toothpicks are far from being deadly to us higher beings. Tanin's nails are probably more dangerous than those toothpicks. The moment the great sword of Arthur was shattered, the fear of that blade shattered with it. Kokabil is the suspect behind stealing them. Both Tanin and Sirzech stopped laughing, realizing the gravity of the situation. You could have started with that. Sirzech nodded to Tanin and walked towards him. Issei, this is a command. Rush to Rius Greory and make sure you two are near each other. At least you can protect each other for now. We will speak with Sirzech about this. Issei nodded, knowing there was no room for argument. The two giants disappeared in a flash, leaving Issei and the two churchwomen behind. I think things are going to get very bad soon. Issei continued running towards Rius's location. Upon arriving at the occult building, he noticed the lights flickering and assumed the worst. Bursting through the door, he announced, I am here. Rius, who was reading a book for an essay, sighed as the door slammed into her, sending her to the ground. Sit. Why are you here? Kokabil is on the move. Rius's annoyance turned to alarm. What? She screamed, alerting Aquino, who rushed downstairs in a towel. What's wrong? Aquino asked, looking concerned. Get Kaneko and Kiba here now. We have a serious emergency. Kokabil is on the move and he's in my territory. Aquino gasped and nodded immediately. Before they could act, a light spear pierced through the wall, narrowly missing Issei. What the hell? Rius exclaimed, noticing the army of fallen angels floating outside. Sheet. Looks like we're surrounded. Aquino. Double trouble begin. Aquino and Rius nodded, unleashing their auras, sending waves of destruction and lightning throughout the area, merging their powers to create a spiral energy disk that sent chaos everywhere. They were already placed in an alternate dimension thanks to whoever trapped them, but the sheer power behind Rius's and Aquino's combined attack began blasting away at the army of fallen angels. Once tiring themselves out, Rius and Aquino were blasted away from each other, crashing into the ground before skidding to a stop. Okay, maybe we should practice that attack more. Agreed. Aquino sighed, looking at the destruction they had created. Issei was impressed by the total annihilation they caused among the army. Boosting to his max, Issei rushed at the nearest fallen and struck, causing it to explode in a flurry of feathers. Oh no! Issei realized the gravity of his actions, but he didn't have time to process it as a light spear rushed straight at him. Dodging the spear, he focused on defeating the fallen angels, knowing he needed to aim for a swift victory. Rushing to the next target, he heard a voice call out, "Wait. Stop. Don't." But it was too late. He blasted the angel into nothingness, incinerating the ones behind it as well. They are all low-class fallen. Is that why they are falling so easily? Drake nodded, noting the sheer number of enemies. Kokabil must have sent them to defeat Rius and her peerage. They may not have the power to defeat her, but they could drain her strength. Drake expressed disappointment in Rius's and Akino's magical endurance. Drake, can you boost me to the max for a few minutes? Yeah, just finish the fight already. The more I watch, the more frustrated I get seeing such weaklings trying to harm you. Feeling a surge of power, Issei began a one-hit killing spree. He didn't have time to dwell on his actions. He needed to ensure his safety. Blow after blow, feathers fell as the cries of the fallen faded to silence. They tried attacking him with spears, but Issei was so far beyond their power that the spears disintegrated upon contact. He was pure strength and speed, built to withstand their feeble attacks. A few fallen angels managed to escape, but Issei paid them no mind. Once the barrier around them was removed and the fallen angels were no longer a threat, he turned to see Rius and Akino finishing off the remaining enemies behind him. They had gotten back on their feet and joined him in blasting the foes into nothingness. Looking around for any signs of Kokabil, Issei found none. Shrugging, he powered down and approached the two. How are you two holding up? We're fine. Rius exclaimed, glaring at Akino. Yeah, perfectly fine. Akino shot back. What did I miss? A fallen angel said that my chest was bigger than hers, Akino said, puffing her chest out. And I agree. Mine is bigger. No, mine is. Mine. Issei, whose chest is bigger? Rius asked, with Akino nodding in agreement. Your sisters and your mothers. With that, Issei walked out of the building, leaving a baffled Akino and a shocked Rius behind. On his way home, Issei kicked a rock while singing with Drake in his mind. Upon arriving at his house, he noticed the lights were off and felt confused. It was too early for his parents to be asleep. Opening the door, he called out, Come on, stop trying to scare me. I know you're up. But silence greeted him. Mom, where are you? Blinking in disbelief, Issei stepped into the dark house. Walking into the living room, he looked down to see a dark stain on the carpet. Backing away, he froze as he saw his mother's lifeless face on the couch, blood pooling around her. Next to her was his father's body, a gaping wound in his stomach. Tears filled Issei's eyes as he approached the corpses, whispering, Mom. Partner. I'm sorry. Drake's voice was filled with shock. This couldn't be happening. Issei shook his mother's body, hoping for her to wake up and say it was all a prank. But there were no signs of life. The two most precious people to him were gone. In a surge of anger, he realized he had been right there, able to protect them if he hadn't listened to Sirzech. It was his fault. Rage coursed through him, and the boosted gear began to activate subconsciously. His body felt like it was tearing apart under the immense power, but he was numb to the pain. Looking down at his hand, he saw his bones glowing brightly, his blood turning a pitch-black color. It trailed off him, bleeding through the ceiling as orbs began to surround him. Drake knew he should stop his partner, but feeling the overwhelming darkness within him, he realized it was too late for salvation. All he could do was telepathically send a message to Sirzech about Issei. With a forceful transformation into his balance breaker form, the chant began. I, who am about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. I laugh at the infinite, and I fret over the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination. With a scream that echoed the pain of a broken man and a broken dragon, Issei achieved a forbidden form. Standing tall, Issei watched as the heat he generated began to affect his surroundings. This was not just any juggernaut drive. It was a mutation fueled by his sorrow and anger. His body transformed into a titanic humanoid dragon, more powerful than ever. Floating in the air, he noticed a bright barrier at his school. With a singular thought, kill all, he blasted toward it. Meanwhile, Sona and her peerage struggled to maintain the barrier with their magic as Rius and her team, along with two holy women, fought against Kokabil. Sona, we can't hold this much longer, one of her peers exclaimed. We just need to push a little longer. It's either we die with the city or we live to see another day. Sona urged, but in an instant, the barrier shattered as a new force broke through, nullifying their efforts. What the hell? Suddy shouted as he and the others were blown away. Just moments before the chaos, Rius was trying to stall Kokabil. Enough of this. Leave now and never return. She demanded, but Kokabil only mocked her. Oh, this is rich. You have been throwing childish insults at me and expect me to take you seriously. Hurry up and bring your sister here. Rius needed Issei to turn the tide. Kokabil, sensing her desperation, taunted, I wonder how that red dragon liked his present from yours truly. Rius's heart sank as Kokabil revealed he had targeted Issei's parents. Once I knew who he was related to, it was easy to break his will with a few dead parents. Mommy and Daddy won't be giving him any Christmas presents anymore. Just then, Rius was pushed out of the way by Akino, who took a light spear directly, causing her immense pain. Rius turned to see Kaneko had also been gravely injured. Time to kill the circus leader, Kokabil sneered, preparing to strike again. But suddenly, a massive figure appeared, dwarfing them all. Kokabil's smile faded as he sensed the immense power radiating from the being. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary, he declared. Kokabil unleashed hundreds of light spears, but they had no effect. The figure took a single step, shattering the ground beneath it, and behind it loomed a massive holographic image of Draig, filled with rage. Partner, kill him. Meanwhile, Serzex was relaxing at home, enjoying the memory of a kiss from Issei that solidified their bond. Suddenly, she received a telepathic message from Draig. Lucifer, Issei needs you. Now. Without hesitation, she teleported to the location indicated, arriving at Issei's house to a sight she had hoped never to witness. The corpses of Issei's parents weighed heavily on Sirzech as she frantically tried to sense Issei's energy. She detected a powerful force moving at immense speeds toward the school where her sister attended. Taking off her armor, Sirzech frowned, concerned for her sister's safety. Meanwhile, Kokabil and Issei faced off against each other, both unmoving until Kokabil attempted to throw a larger light spear at Issei. In an instant, Kokabil found himself pinned to the ground, his wings torn away. The speed at which Issei moved was incomprehensible to Kokabil. Before Kokabil could register his fear, Issei seized him by the jaw and ripped it off. BLD pooled on the grass, staining it a deep crimson. Without giving Kokabil a moment to recover, Issei lifted him by the head, forcing him to meet his gaze. Partner, end it. Kokabil managed a smile despite his condition, spitting defiantly, so, this is the red dragon. How was my present? He wanted to ensure that if he was to fall, Issei would take up the mantle in his new juggernaut drive form. In his mind, he had already won. The Excalibur wielder had been eliminated by the sheer heat Issei generated while moving past him. Kokabil needed to reach the sword. He created 2 light spears and slammed them together, producing a blinding light that momentarily stunned Issei. Seizing the opportunity, Kokabil dove for the sword and raised it high, laughing maniacally before charging at Issei. Swinging the sword down to slice him in half, Kokabil was met with Issei's armor, which stopped the blade cold. What? Issei exclaimed as he grabbed the sword and snapped it in half, shattering centuries of human weaponry with ease. With titanic strength, Issei slammed his fists into Kokabil's body, eliciting a screech of pain as Kokabil was compressed to half his height. For the first time, Kokabil felt fear as the pain overwhelmed him. Don't that yet, he gasped, trying to maintain his composure. But Issei moved his hands to Kokabil's eyes and ripped them out without resistance. My eyes! My eyes! Kokabil screamed as Issei slammed him into the ground, headfirst, then lifted him up to slam him again and again. Finally, Issei looked down at the barely moving Kokabil, whose body was mangled and bleeding from the empty sockets where his eyes once were. With a powerful punch, Issei struck Kokabil's face, the sound echoing across the battlefield. In moments, feathers were blown away by the wind as Issei stood alone amidst the chaos. Before he could act further, Sirzech's Lucifer entered the arena, her eyes widening at the sight of the transformation Issei had undergone. When she saw him, Issei let out a roar of anguish and anger before launching himself into the sky. Serzex turned to see Akino and Kaniko's state and urged Rius, "Take your peerage along with Sona and get out of here." Rius hesitated, wanting to help, but she recognized when she would be a hindrance. Grabbing Akino and Kaniko, she flew away, hoping to contact Greory for assistance. Serzex watched as Issei dove toward her, trying to catch her off guard. She deflected his massive fist, unwilling to hurt him. Dodging more of his attacks, she caressed his metallic head, sorrow filling her heart. "Serzex." She heard Draig's voice faintly from within Issei's armor. "What is it, Draig?" Frustrated, Issei grabbed Serzex and hurled her into the sky. "You need to stop holding back. You need to take Issei out now." Channeling all his energy into one powerful attack, Issei began to change the atmosphere around him. Maximum transfer as he concentrated the energy into his mouth, Draig's voice resonated with authority throughout the town. Heavenly tears, rupture the skies, an ear-splitting sound erupted as a powerful crimson blast, surrounded by dark flames, surged from Issei's mouth, transforming the sky into a brilliant red. Serzex was engulfed by the attack, her gaze locked onto Issei's as a single tear flowed down his face through the armor. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic, shaking the earth and altering the weather itself. Through the smoke, Serzex emerged, her hand raised, filled with the power of destruction. The sheer force of her energy nullified Issei's attack. She could no longer hold back, her beloved Issei was in pain, and she needed to make it stop. The world trembled as the ground cracked open, molten lava spewing into the air, signaling the chaos that was to come. The winds began to pick up, blasting the surface with an intensity that felt unnatural. The tides around them shook violently as Serzex transformed into the humanoid destruction. With the power of annihilation coursing through her, she reached out and appeared behind Issei. "Sleep," she whispered, placing her hand on his armor, shattering it and forcing him back into his base form. Serzex watched in horror as Issei collapsed to the ground, BLD covering his body, cuts and burns marring his skin. Dropping to her knees, she reverted to her original form and held Issei in her arms, tears streaming down her face. The thought that he might never recover filled her with despair, but she vowed to always be there for him. However, her anger turned towards Azazel, who she blamed for this devastation. Her BLD boiled at the thought of Azazel being behind Issei's suffering. Lifting him gently, she conjured a magical cloth to cover him and placed him on the ground, forming a protective barrier around him. "Draig, protect him." "Of course, I will until my dying breath," came the reply. Ignoring his words, Serzex transformed back into her humanoid destruction form, ready to unleash her fury. Reinforcements arrived, but they were met with Serzex's fierce gaze. Greory, Tanin, and Sertre led the army, with Ajuka and Serafal right behind them. Azazel and Valley appeared, taking in the chaotic scene. "Oh no, Serzex already beat us to it," Azazel remarked, observing the devastation around them. As Serzex approached him with a menacing intent, Valis stepped in front of Azazel to protect him. "Whoa, calm down, Lucifer. I wouldn't do that if I were you. There's 100 of us and one of you." Azazel grabbed Valis' shoulder, cautioning him. "Flip that around. We shouldn't engage if we are us, because there is a wild Serzex in front of us." Ajuka, noticing Serzex getting into a battle stance, felt a wave of dread. "Everyone, get on guard." Serzex's power was already above the rest of the Satans, but a Berserk Serzex was something else entirely. "Valley, go protect the others," Azazel commanded, stepping in front of Serzex. "That is an order." Valley, taken aback by Azazel's seriousness, realized the gravity of the situation and left to ensure the others were safe, leaving the leaders and a few of Serzex's powerful peerage members to confront her. "This is a one versus all," Ajuka declared as the fight began, meeting Serzex in the middle. He was the only one who could match her strength, and they all understood they needed to combine their efforts to take her down. Ajuka launched a hook, only to be met with a kick to his sternum that knocked the breath from him. Serzex's sheer power overwhelmed him, and though he could manipulate magic to avoid complete destruction, her blows rattled his bones. Ducking the next attack, Ajuka landed a jab, following up with an uppercut. Serzex staggered for a moment before blasting him away with her aura. Ajuka skidded across the ground, fighting to regain his footing as Serzex advanced, her aura flaring like a storm. He wiped BLD from his mouth, determination shining in his emerald eyes as he conjured intricate magical circles. "I'll admit, you've gotten stronger, Serzex, but everything has a weakness." With a flick of his wrist, the circles shot beams of condensed magic energy toward her. Serzex didn't flinch, her power of destruction flared, reducing the beams to harmless particles. Seizing the moment, Ajuka teleported behind her in a burst of green light, his fist cloaked in raw magic aimed at her back. Serzex turned just in time, catching the blow with her forearm. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground. Unfazed, she retaliated with a brutal elbow strike to Ajuka's ribs, sending him reeling. Before he could recover, she followed up with a spinning kick that hurled him across the battlefield. Ajuka twisted midair, stabilizing himself with a burst of magic. His chest heaved as he glared at Serzex. "Fine. If brute strength is the game, then I'll match you." He clapped his hands together, manipulating his magic into a glowing emerald knight wielding an enormous blade. Leaping into the air, he merged with the construct, taking control of its movements. Trying to match Serzex's strength, this was the only way to do so. The magical knight swung its sword downward with earth-shattering force, aiming to blow Serzex away. Serzex raised her hand, summoning a barrier of pure destruction to intercept the attack. The clash created a blinding explosion of light and energy, forcing the onlookers to shield their eyes. When the dust settled, Serzex stood unscathed and raised her power even further. In an instant, she closed the distance between them, her aura flaring so intensely that it seemed to distort reality itself. She unleashed a barrage of punches, each one amplified by her destructive power. The magical knight staggered under the assault, cracks forming along its surface. Ajuka gritted his teeth, pouring more magic into the construct to keep it from collapsing. The knight retaliated with a sweeping strike, but Serzex dodged with uncanny speed, phasing out of sight before reappearing above it. She drove a sphere of condensed destruction into the knight's head, shattering it completely. Ajuka was thrown from the collapsing construct, tumbling across the ground. He struggled to his feet, BLD dripping from a gash on his forehead. Serzex was still standing, reaching out to grab him, but Ajuka finally had enough and manipulated his magic to exponentially increase his power for the next attack. Putting everything into the next strike, Ajuka pushed all his energy point-blank at Serzex. Catching the queen off guard, Serzex was engulfed by the attack, which covered the entire atmosphere in an emerald coating. The sheer power behind Ajuka's attack shook the world once more. That should stun her for a while. "I leave everything to you." With that, Ajuka dropped to the ground, all his energy expelled into that attack. Once the dust cleared, Serzex was seen coughing out a little BLD while shaking her head. If she hadn't had her guard up, she would have been fatally wounded. Seeing Ajuka on the ground, Serzex was about to reach for him but noticed another force approaching. A massive combined spear of devil, angel, fallen, and draconic energy formed, larger than the field they stood on, and shot toward Serzex. Forming a massive sphere of destructive power, Serzex threw it at the spear to annihilate it, but the spear resisted total erasure. With the collision occurring, Serzex laughed before channeling all her power into her attack, forming a massive sphere that dwarfed the spear aimed at her. "We need more power." Azazel screamed while activating his artificial Sacred Gear's balance breaker form. He shot even more power, barely able to keep the beam struggle even. Tannen and Surtur exchanged determined glances before charging to their maximum power. Seraphal began to lose her ground from the intense winds created by the clash. The army of devils brought as reinforcements for Kokabil began to be blasted away by the pressure as the beam's struggle intensified. Gabriel and Michael both feared the worst. With a single announcement from Gabriel to heaven, they prepared to retrieve reinforcements, but they needed to survive long enough for them to arrive. Azazel had called in Vale, asking him to enter the forbidden form for more support. Serzex laughed even more while blasting more power against them. Azazel realized they were inevitably facing defeat as the huge sphere approached. Seraphal began crying, fearing death would take her without a chance to say goodbye to her sister. It was all going downhill. Closing his eyes, Michael accepted fate, thinking he would finally follow his father. "You idiots! What are you doing?" Opening his eyes, Azazel was met with Ajuka appearing beside the others. Even in his beaten and bruised state, he was still conscious and fighting. Seeing Ajuka, the only other person to rival Serzex's power, pushing his all, hope began to rise in everyone's hearts. Grafia appeared next to them. "Lord Ajuka, I have arrived as requested." She began channeling all her magic into their spear to turn the tide against Serzex. "Let's do this." Grafia turned her head to see Beowulf arrive. "It was about time we got here." Okita appeared next to Beowulf. "Lord Ajuka, what's the plan?" The most powerful peerage were nearly assembled. "What do you mean the plan? Get in here and start helping." Ajuka shouted, causing the two to shiver slightly at his anger. With the support of the two powerful devils, they began pushing the blast back. "Promotion, Queen!" Beowulf yelled as his power surged even further. With nearly all the superpowers of the three factions pushing with all their might, they began to turn the tides. Serzex noticed her sphere coming to a stop before moving back toward her. Seeing this, she placed all her energy from her humanoid destruction form into her attack and halted its movement. The two sides screamed as a bright flash overtook the country. The blast engulfed them all. In the distance, a woman tended to her garden and fixed a small wheelbarrow. Turning to see the light approaching, she shrugged her shoulders. "I knew aliens were real." She continued her work before the smoke engulfed her as well. "I knew I should have bought some popcorn. Honey, the crazy people down there are doing their fireworks again." Humans simply didn't understand they were witnessing a fight that shook the world itself. "I'm going to call their manager for bothering me." Once the smoke cleared, Tannen, Surtur, Beowulf, Grafia, Azazel, Michael, Gabriel, Okita, Vale, Seraphal, Ajuka, and the rest of the reinforcements were all unconscious. Standing with barely any strength left, Serzex was covered in burn marks and had no clothing. Her mind raced as she searched for Issei. Where was he? Frantically looking around, she noticed a small glowing barrier. Knowing it was Issei, she rushed over to the mound of dirt covering the barrier, hoping to hold him in her arms once more before darkness consumed her consciousness. Dispelled her own barrier with a snap of her fingers, Serzex leapt towards Issei and landed beside him. Seeing him peacefully sleeping despite the chaos, she wondered if they would see each other again. Taking a chance, she leaned in and kissed his cheek before collapsing onto his chest. Closing her eyes, she decided to let her consciousness slip away, feeling safe with him in her arms. Rius and her peerage arrived with Sona and her group. Witnessing the destruction, Rius was amazed by her sister's power, while the others were apprehensive about the devastation Serzex had caused. Many were fatally wounded from the heat and pressure she had unleashed, but they needed to focus on healing everyone. Rius watched her sister and Issei, both injured and close to each other. Despite the circumstances, Rius couldn't help but smile at the tender scene, even if her sister was without clothing due to the aftermath of her transformation. Approaching the two, Rius lifted her sister while instructing Akino to carry Issei. She asked Sona for a spare kuo dress and carefully dressed her sister to avoid further stares when they arrived at the hospital with the wounded. This day would be remembered as the day Serzex faced it all. Issei fluttered his eyes open to see a white ceiling and crimson hair moving above him. As he focused, he saw Serzex playfully drawing circles on his shoulder while humming softly. Remaining silent, Issei watched her, enjoying the peaceful moment. Eventually, he moved his hand to gently pat her head. Serzex looked up with her majestic eyes, smiling at the sight of him awake. "You're alive. I thought you were gone," she said, tears welling in her eyes as she pressed her head against his shoulder. "I was so worried. You entered the Juggernaut Drive, and I didn't know what to do. I'm so glad Drake told me you were in trouble." Looking at his bandaged body, Issei realized the events he had feared were real. Noticing him beginning to tremble, Serzex hugged him tightly and kissed his forehead. "It's okay. I'm here, and I will never leave you alone." "Are they gone?" he asked. Serzex nodded and hugged him closer when she saw him breaking down. Turning to the hospital door, she locked it to ensure they could have this moment together. They needed each other now more than ever. After a while, Serzex noticed Issei calming down and beginning to drift off to sleep. She carefully adjusted their positions, lying back against the bed with Issei resting on her chest. Gently scratching the top of his head, she soothed him. Moments later, a teleportation circle appeared nearby. Covering Issei with a blanket and using magic to ensure he could sleep peacefully, Serzex prepared for the arrival of others. Grafia appeared with Tannin and Surtur beside her, while the others stayed away to avoid overwhelming Serzex. "Serzex, is Issei okay?" Grafia asked, noticing the peaceful boy with tear marks on his face. Though she had never had a child, Issei felt like the closest thing to it for her. He often caused mischief but always listened to her when Serzex became troublesome. "He's sleeping. He's traumatized," Serzex replied. Grafia sat beside them and gently caressed Issei's face. Seeing the bandages covering him made her cringe at the pain he had endured. "What happened?" she asked softly. Serzex hesitated before saying, "Kokabil killed his parents." Grafia's eyes widened in shock as she instinctively pulled Issei into her embrace. Serzex allowed it, trusting Grafia with Issei. Surtur felt guilty hearing the news. He knew he shouldn't have told Issei to leave, but he would have faced the same fate if Kokabil had appeared while he was around. Tannin placed a reassuring hand on Surtur's shoulder. "It wasn't your fault. No one could have known Kokabil would do that. He was likely planning to distract us and eliminate Issei's parents." Surtur sighed, knowing the truth weighed heavily on them all. "Let's just wait for the hatchling to wake up." Tannin nodded before standing beside Surtur, watching the scene unfold. "Azazel told me that he sent the White Dragon Emperor to retrieve Kokabil since he went against his orders and acted on his own," Ajuka added before realizing his mistake. Serzex growled at the mention of Azazel and Kokabil's names. "I'll have that old bird's head. I will kill him. Let me go. I will not rest until he pays." Grafia held Serzex down, with Serafal aiding her. "Grafia, remember to remind me never to show up when Serzex is angry." "I'm going to make sure you show up when she's angry," Grafia replied, causing Serafal to pout. Serzex continued to shake with anger before tiring himself out and just holding on to Issei, remaining calm. "Surtur. What is it?" Draig chuckled at the commotion in the room. "Issei said he knows you didn't do anything wrong, it was just bad luck. No one knew Kokabil was going to show up." "Wait, how do you know his thoughts when he's asleep?" Surtur facepalmed. "Because I can break into his dreams and intervene when necessary. I've been speaking with him the entire time to ensure he doesn't have nightmares. The boy needs help. He has never faced tragedy on this level. He has always been an innocent soul, slightly influenced by an old man showing him some inappropriate materials." Serzex gasped, looking at Grafia. "The magazines. Grafia, I order you to go to Issei's house and remove all those magazines. I will not have him looking at any other woman inappropriately." Grafia sighed and nodded, knowing Serzex would be even more protective of Issei after nearly losing him. Her first love was already in danger not even a week after they declared their marriage. "Serzex, I'll have to explain all this to the other leaders. They were confused by your rash behavior. Looks like I can shift the blame to Azazel." Ajuka smirked, imagining Azazel's reaction. "I can't wait to get my revenge for when he stole my drink." With that, Ajuka disappeared through a portal, with Surtur and Tannin following after. "Grafia, can I just hold Issei indefinitely?" "No, he still needs to go to school and train. I can teach him and take care of him." "Bad Serzex. Stop being possessive." "Never."